Okay, good evening and welcome to the Grand Prairie City Council meeting for Monday, February 9th. I'd ask everyone in attendance to rise and join us in singing O Canada. Well, thank you to the National Film Board for the images of our country and to our very own Grand Prairie Boys Choir for the audio. We'd move into the adoption of previous council meeting minutes. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I move the minutes City Council meeting held January 26, 2015 be adopted.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Did anyone note any errors or omissions in that set of minutes? If everything looks like it's in order, then I will call for the vote to adopt them. Thank you. That motion carries. We move to the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Rice.
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And this brings us to the delegation portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity that we have at every regular City Council meeting for any community member to come forward and address council on any community matter, as long as it isn't the subject of a public hearing. And I know we have a number of public hearings later on in our agenda tonight. But we did have two delegations that let us know ahead of time that they would attend. The first was regarding the Bear Creek Folk Music Festival. Ms. Sarah Card. Ms. Card, if you're here, if you'd like to come up and join us at the presenters table, come on up. Sure, absolutely. You have information to circulate. And when you seat yourself, if you just want to introduce yourself and anybody else that's going to be presenting with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mayor Gibbon and Council, for having us here this evening. It really means a lot to me that you're giving us this opportunity to come and speak to you about the festival and the sponsorship request that we brought to you. I brought with me Gordy Hackstead as a representative of our board. First and foremost, I would like to wholeheartedly thank the City of Grand Prairie so much for both the $14,000 festival funding grant as well as the $10,000 sponsorship that they have agreed to award us. This really means a lot to us. The festival that we're planning on putting on is a very large-scale 3-day event that is going to be featuring 40 artists, including numerous large-name headliners. We're going to have 3 daytime stages running Saturday and Sunday, as well as multiple concerts Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening. This is an event that is going to require 500 plus volunteers, and we're really hoping to have an attendance of up to 8,000 people per day attending. So it's just a very exciting and large event. We have decided to move our inaugural festival to August of 2016. This is a great way to give us the lead time that's going to be necessary to put on an event of this size. It is so important to us to make the best possible impression on our first festival, so we really, really want to do it right. This will also allow our key staff and volunteers the chance to attend some other major festivals this summer and really get a sense for what is, how an event like this is put together, and really learn from some more experienced events. We have, to help us with this huge undertaking, we've been putting together a really terrific set of allies who have come on board to help us in such a big way. Our biggest ally, and I'm just so excited about this, who's just recently come on board as a huge sponsor, is Terry Wickham and the Edmonton Folk Music Festival. Now, they've agreed to sponsor our festival in the amount of $30,000. This is a $15,000 cash donation, as well as $15,000 in goods in kind. Probably more than that. They're giving us all their tents, all of their electrical, and basically have come on board to give us anything that we need that they can supply, because they so wholeheartedly support this event. In addition to that, they're providing mentorship for our key staff. They're inviting all of us to come to the festival this summer to really train up our people, show us how they do things. I mean, they've got some of the most experienced and dedicated volunteers that you can see at any festival, so it's going to be a really great opportunity. They're going to provide assistance in getting travel grants for bands, and most exciting, they're helping us secure some very large headliners who would generally be an absolute impossibility for a first-year event like ours. Usually there's a trust that has to be built up over years, but they're vouching for us in such a big way that, and combining bids to be able to bring in the same caliber of headliners that you see at their festival. And we're just so excited about that. It just is such a strong way for us to come out of the gate. And in addition, they're just going to be providing us with any information or contact or anything that we could possibly need. As I've talked to you before, we've got Mitch Podolak on board, who is the grandfather of the Canadian Folk Festival, and he's helping us just basically put the entire thing together and organize the site and the vision of the festival. And Peter North has officially come on board as well. He's the director of the Salmon Arm Festival. He was instrumental in helping us put together our budget for this festival, as the Salmon Arm Folk Fest is of the same scope as ours. He had a realistic view of how much things cost, and he also knows what it takes to run a festival this size, so he's been really, really helpful in that regard. One major change since our last presentation was the decision to charge a gate, or charge for tickets during the first year. We are absolutely confident with the quality of acts they're bringing in and their popularity that there's going to be absolutely no issue in selling tickets for this event, and it's going to be such a stronger event for us having that needed extra cash flow, because it does amount to a lot of money. We do, however, recognize that Grande Prairie is a city with a lot of young families, and we want to make this event as accessible as possible. So we are, first of all, still going to ensure that children under 12 get in free. We also are going to offer youth, that's 12 to 17, as well as seniors at half price. At this point, what we are trying to do in the stage that we're at, we are putting together seed money to book at least 4 very strong headliners who we can use as leverage to sell a number of tickets in advance, well in advance. This is the method we've come up with for coming up with a larger amount of money that we need to start generating operating, or these tickets will hopefully help us to generate operating funds that we can start to book the rest of our acts, as well as cover some of our administration costs and advertising, and really continuing to get the word out there. And as momentum picks up with those early bird ticket sales, we also are hoping that this will help to entice some of the headliners that are currently interested but haven't yet committed. I mean, not headliners, some of the early sponsors that are interested but have not yet committed to the festival. We have been successful in confirming a number of sponsors in addition to the Edmonton. I've listed them all in the handouts that I've circulated. In addition, we have been, as I mentioned earlier, lucky enough to be awarded the City of Grand Prairie Festival Funding Grant for $14,000, for which we are extremely grateful. In an email that I sent out, I proposed that the City of Grand Prairie receive sponsorship recognition for the Free Children's Pass in exchange for a $20,000 sponsorship. Well, we are very, very grateful for the city's undertaking to award us with $10,000. We will, and of course, we'll certainly gladly accept those funds or any funds that the city would like to offer us. We would really humbly like to ask the city to have a second look at this amount and possibly reconsider the full 20. At this early stage in our organization, this $20,000 is a lot of money to us and constitutes a large percentage of our seed money. And it's at this point, within the scope of a budget that is going to reach over $500,000, it's not actually a large amount of our budget, but at this point we're at right now, this is a lot of money to us and will really, really help us move forward. Also, I feel the need to also note that the children's sponsorship is by far one of the most valuable sponsorships that we have to offer. And I really feel that $20,000 is a very, very fair amount for this sponsorship. It's I'd say one of the two most valuable that the festival has to offer up to entice sponsors. And of course, we are absolutely happy to offer it exclusively to the city of Grand Prairie. I know that this festival does not yet have a proven track record, and I certainly know that many will find it very difficult to take a chance on something new. However, this event shows so much promise to become one of Grand Prairie's largest tourist attractions, as well as a very, very good thing for local economy and tourism. So it is my deepest hope that you have our confidence moving forward and that you can all join me in standing behind this very, very exciting event, which honestly will be groundbreaking for the city of Grand Prairie and will play a vital role in the city's cultural landscape for decades to come. Terry Wickham, who has written a strong letter of support for us, suggested that any councillor or any member of council who has any questions and would like to discuss with him his involvement in the festival is absolutely welcome to call him, and he's included his cards. He also mentioned at the end of the letter that anyone who has any doubt of what a festival like this would bring to a city should definitely consider calling the Mayor of Edmonton to see what their festival has brought to him. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great. Thanks very much, Ms. Cardinal. There's an opportunity for questions. I see a couple of council members in the queue already. Councillor Rice?
I assume you have talked to Ainsley at tourism.
Yes.
Okay, and the opportunities for sponsorship with
Yes.
there?
Yes, and we do certainly plan to pursue those as well. I mean, we're pursuing every avenue that we possibly can, and we're deeply seeking as many people who can turn us on to other people who are able to help. We're devoting a lot of time to that. She was one of the first people I did talk to, though. We had a good meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Logan?
Good presentation. Thank you, Sarah. It sounds really exciting. We've got an idea of what your costs are going to be, but these sorts of festivals tend to have a really positive economic spin-off for the community they're in. Have you had any opportunity to sort of scope out projections for what this might do in terms of economic spin-off in Grand Prairie and area?
Well, we've started. I mean, we're in an early development stage right now, obviously, in research. But aside from bringing in, multiple people from, our marketing, and this was a conversation that we had with Ainsley. Our marketing, we plan to market fairly far into the north, as well as into BC and northern Alberta and into the Northwest Territories. And in bringing this number of people into a town, it can't help but do good things for local business. And also, we've got the Dinosaur Museum that's just getting finished up. And one of the conversations that we had with Ainsley was trying to promote it so that people come in for the festival and then check out the other attractions and try to entice people to come for the festival but stay longer and do kind of pair it up with some of the other things that the Grand Prairie area has to offer.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Sarah and Gordon, just a couple questions. First one, you said it'd be no problem selling tickets, but I know you tried to raise money in crowdfunding or whatever you did, and you had 4 people and $222 raised in a certain amount of time. So can you speak to that, please?
Well, there are a couple aspects to that. First of all, we were very misguided, or I should say I was very misguided in my approach to how I approached that campaign. I'd never run a Kickstarter campaign before, and I did quite honestly, a very poor job at coming up with the right incentives. It was a misguided campaign to begin with, or ill-conceived campaign to begin with. Since that time, I have been doing a tireless amount of research, and that actually was a very good lesson for us in terms of what we do need to do and growth. And the problem with the campaign was I wasn't offering enough to people. I had these prices really high, and wasn't even really offering proper amounts of tickets or anything. Whereas when people are being offered a spectacular amount of amazing acts for a price that is less than what they sometimes pay for one artist for one night in a major venue, the value is so high. And so it really sells itself. I mean, people love excellent value, and they love excellent entertainment, and they're going to love the acts we're bringing in. We're being very careful to, aside from being very supportive of, some unknown gems and trying to bring people to artists to the forefront, we're being very careful to select some extremely large headliners who will be wildly popular with the 4 headliners that we've picked to try to entice or to try to do our original early ticket sale. I've picked very carefully as representing very strongly 4 major demographics in Grand Prairie. So we're moving upward in this.
And just to add to that, I was not aware of this. This is one of the things I've learned in working with Sarah, is that artists are, you actually can't release their name until you've secured 50% of the overall fee for the artist. So that is where the seed money would come from. Is our initial investment would be to secure that 50% so that we could release these 4 names. With the Kickstarter campaign, we couldn't even say, oh, we're thinking of these artists, because it's actually a violation of the agreements that artists have with events. So the seed money is significantly geared towards allowing us to release these 4 names, to say, hey, this is a great deal. Instead of seeing this one artist for $100, you could see all of these artists, including this one, for $100 over 3 days.
Okay, I got a couple more questions. Thank you for saying that. I had 2 more, and I do want a new event, but you come in front of council, so I am going to say
Oh, no, of
something.
course.
So,
Of course.
and you talk about promotions. This is way out of time. Like when it came to the arts committee, it was going to be this year, and we weren't going to charge anybody. And after it was granted the next week, it's going to be the next year. And now we're going to charge everybody except for under 12. Can you speak to that? Because within a week, the model changed.
Well, what has been happening over time, as we've been evolving, we've been bringing on these major allies who have been sort of steering and molding this into the best possible event that it can be. Bringing Terry Wickham and Peter North on board was a major part of what guided these changes. The original model that we were working off of was one based on something out of a different province, whereas these are 2 people who have extreme province of Alberta, and it's a very current experience. And we hold their advice very strongly. And it really, as the festival was evolving, we realized that what we were going for was not to come out with something kind of medium level and build, but we want to come out with something extremely strong in the first year, and to get the level of headliners that we are now looking at, because we had been looking at a slightly more modest level of headliner, and to get the larger level of headliner that does substantially raise the cost, and the money really has to come from somewhere. This is also partly what has steered us in the direction of giving it an extra year. It's basically, we could have done it this year, but we had a really long look, and I had a very good conversation with Peter North, who has just taken over the Salmon Arm Festival, and based on a bunch of information that he gave me, and we really looked over what we have, we decided that, quite honestly, if we want to come out as strong as possible and make the first year really count, which it has to, we would be best advised to give it that one extra year of organization and planning. So it's, yeah. That's
Okay, no, I'm glad. I got another question. Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I also noticed when you came for the funding, same day we had another festival that's came to Arts Committee, and they were half the price of you in their 8th year. And I was really astonished by the amount you're hoping in your first year we're going to be successful, and we're going to try to get 100,000 on provincial government, when some of these other places were lucky to get 30 or 20. So I want to know, ask that question where you're hoping to get $100,000, where other events that are proven track record can't get more than 30.
Well, the scope of our festival is vastly higher than anything else in this region. There are some extremely quality events in this region. One good example would be the East Coast Garden Party. And I know they put on a fantastic event. However, their event runs, for example, it runs 2 nights and no days, and has a total of 10 acts. What we're talking about is 3 consecutively running daytime stages for 2 days, plus 3 nights and over 40 acts, some of them being some of the biggest living names in all of Americana roots music. It's just a much more expensive, much larger scope event than the city has ever seen, so the ticket will come at a lot higher cost. Having said that, to be quite honest with you, the format that we are taking is an expected format within the folk festival genre. If you talk to industry people across the country, you'll find that there is an expected format. You're really expected to have these consecutive stages. You're expected to run daytime and evening, and it's just it's a format that the artists expect. It's a format that folk festival attendees within this genre expect. But the budget, just to put it in perspective, the budget of the larger festivals in Canada runs into the very many millions of dollars, and even the budget that I presented to you for our festival is quite a bit. We're being quite modest, even compared to the Salmon Arm Festival, who's the same size as us. They're a little more expensive because they're in a tourist town, and so there are some things that do cost more. But the numbers that I presented were very, very realistic based on the costs of. There were several other festivals who were nice enough to provide me with their entire budget for the last few years, and then we were able to sit down and actually talk about the numbers and how ours would be a little bit different. But this is a very carefully thought out budget, and is definitely modest within what we're looking at.
I'm not going to ask no more questions. Thank you.
Councillor McLean, we've got a few others. Councillor Rice?
It's similar to Councillor McLean's line of questions. Have you or your board thought of downscaling for the first year and then growing the festival. I look at the numbers and you're expecting 4,000 people a day for 3 days. Most of those would be the same 4,000 people. I look at the Street Performers Festival that attracts 30,000 for less than half of the grant, the sponsorship the city has given you. So it seems to me that it's overly ambitious for a kickoff year, and you might be more successful in starting small and growing the festival.
I think that goes into what Sarah was just talking about with the format of a folk music festival. There is an expectation of a multi-day event with multiple stages, and if a festival doesn't present that format, the type of festival changes. It then becomes just a music event, as opposed to an actual folk music festival. And when you take that label away from it, a lot of those attendees that seek out folk music festivals will also probably be deterred from that.
There's one at Gruard, is there? Gruard, Jussard?
Jussard, no, that's the North Country Fair, and it's definitely a totally different animal. I love the North Country Fair, but first of all, they are an all camping festival, which makes them accessible to a certain crowd. They definitely don't carry the same type of major headliners that we're looking at. It's a really fun, extremely large party with a lot of great music, but somewhat different from what we're proposing. We really are proposing to have, as I said, some of the similar large headliners that you do get in Edmonton. This will generate an extreme amount of excitement to be able to create such an exciting event from the first year will really help us a lot to build. It's just so important that we come out really strong with a bang and not kind of with a little whimper and sort of try to crawl our way up, because again, from the feedback I've gotten from other people, festivals that kind of start at a certain level will stay there for maybe even decades. It's a very hard crawl, whereas if you start with these great acts, it will draw a lot of people. And honestly, I think that with the people that we're bringing in, we will be able to draw more than 4,000. There is such a large population of people who will really like these acts and these artists. And we're looking at not just the city of Grand Prairie, but the 250,000-person population that sort of surround, and that's Ainsley was the one who gave me that number.
So how is yours different than the Bluegrass Festival up by Dawson Creek?
Well, first of all, that festival, any bluegrass festival that is going to strictly stay within one genre of music, and that kind of would deter possibly a lot of people if you don't happen to like bluegrass music. What we have discovered through research is that at folk festivals, only 4% of the people who attend the festival are what I'll call folk music fans, and the rest of them are eventers who are just there to have a great time and experience the event. And when you're presenting a vast array of music, because a folk music festival format will present everything from the folk singer-songwriter to rock music to Americana to Celtic to country to a little bit of bluegrass as well. But it's not such a small niche. It really covers a lot of areas and will appeal to a much wider demographic of people.
Thank you.
Councillor Terrence?
Thank you, Mayor Given, and thank you, Sarah. Great presentation. I just wanted to get my head a little bit around some of the total financial needs here. Could you tell what the total amount of seed money that you're trying to get for this year?
Well, what we're looking to put together for just booking these 4 artists is $60,000. Now, we have a bunch of money in promise. For example, the Edmonton Folk Festival has committed this money. We won't be receiving that money until after their festival, so that although it's a confirmed sponsorship, doesn't necessarily contribute to this particular part of it. So we have, between the city grant, and if the city ends up deciding to follow through with this sponsorship, as well as a couple of other minor sponsorships and the Big Rock sponsorship, we'll have pretty well exactly enough money to book these, like I said, these 4 headliners that we hope to use to then make or generate further operating overhead. As well, we put aside a little bit of money to execute this plan and to promote that we're doing this, so that we're able to get word out there that this is happening.
Excellent. And then just another question in regards to some other cities that have very successful folk festivals. Just wondering if you have any idea of what the scope of government funding that they receive from the city. Thinking of the Edmonton Festival.
It's a fair amount. It's quite a bit more than what we're asking for, to be honest. As I said, their budget runs into many millions of dollars. So but also they have a lot of very dedicated sponsors, and their festival sells out in 9 minutes and has for the last 20 years running, and it's a coveted thing at this point to even be a sponsor at that festival. You have to fight your way in. So a lot of their money comes from there, but they do also get it. They still, to this day, even though they have, they basically do apply for money at all levels of government. How much they receive from the city of Edmonton, I actually can't honestly tell you at all.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I think you've done a great job of presenting your festival. So I'm going to say thank you. If there's a final word that you'd like to give, you have kind of a minute to do that. You don't have to use it though. So we have.
No, I just want to thank everybody so much for taking the time, and I'm really, really excited about this event and just really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be amazing for the city of Grand Prairie.
Okay, thanks very much, Ms. Clark. Thank you. Thanks very much. And so your item comes up on our agenda as 8.2 after a few public hearings. So you're more than welcome to stick around and watch, or you can go home and watch online live. But you're welcome either way. Thank you very much. So we did have another delegation let us know ahead of time. Mr. Ethan Jarvis wanted to come forward to speak about urban beekeeping. Mr. Jarvis. You can introduce yourself and your team.
Thank you very much. My name's Ethan Jarvis. This is my son, Derek, who decided to tag along to introduce himself to more of City Council's workings. So I wanted to approach City Council to request some amendments to the agricultural bylaws in the community to allow for urban beekeeping. This has become quite popular in major centers across the world. It's been many decades in Europe, and it's been several decades in Calgary. It's recently grown to Edmonton, and Vancouver's had a successful program for quite some time. And so we're just trying to get the ball rolling on the discussion around policies and procedures to ensure that it's safe and beneficial for everyone. So I did bring one short note here from the Vancouver procedures, and I'd just like to read that quickly. The presence of honeybees in the city can increase harvests for backyard, street, rooftop, and community gardens. Honeybees are social insects with a marked division of labor between the various castes of bees in a colony. A colony of honeybees includes a queen, drones, and workers. Unlike other bees, honeybees can communicate details about the location, quality, and quantity of food sources. This allows honeybees to access and utilize food sources efficiently at great distances. Honeybees are vegetarians. They gather nectar to produce honey and pollen for raising their brood. Honeybees also collect water to control the temperature of the hive. While they are gathering nectar from plants, pollen grains are also transported on their bodies, leading to pollination of other plants. Honeybees are pollinators and play a critical role in the production of many crops, representing a value of over $14 billion per year in North America. it is estimated that the pollination services provided by honeybees are often 60 to 100 times more valuable than the market price of the honey. Honeybees only sting when their nest or themselves are threatened. Wasps, on the other hand, are carnivores and may sting as they hunt for food. Bees generally do not visit picnics, barbecues, or garbage cans. Yellow jacket wasps and hornets are scavengers attracted to any area where food remnants can be found during the summer season. And so, with the success of the programs in other urban centers and with the Peace Region's notoriety around the world for its honey production, urban beekeeping has a track record of a consistent high quality of honey production, and this would be on a hobby level. So it's not going to be anything competing with our local industries, but it's something that can benefit the city. I've spoken to my neighbors about it, and they're interested in seeing at least a trial go forward, and just to develop safe procedures so that we can license and regulate and inspect and ensure that things are done properly and enjoy a productive hobby.
Thanks very much, Mr. Jarvis. Questions? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I got a couple here as well. I think this is fascinating. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Derek, for coming. I tried to be a beekeeper when I was 8. It didn't work out too well in my backyard. What size would these be, these units? Because, you know, the city's in annexation talks, and as well, we're hoping to grow more. But, you know, we got some really small lots. I mean, small, 32 feet wide. But we have some bigger ones. How would it work, like, if you had a garden and you just have, like, you see the boxes out in the farmer's field? So just how is it working that way in the urban?
The regulations that are in place in other cities are specific about the property size and the barriers around the beehives. If a beehive is simply facing a fence, then the bees come out of the hive and they go up and over the fence or vegetation barrier, and which places them in a flight path that's above people for the most part. Most places limit the hives to 2 sets of boxes or 2 hives in a 10,000 square foot, or I believe it's a 500 meter property, and limit it to 4 hives when properties get much bigger than that. Some places vary that depending on square footage or square meters, but most urban hives are limited to 1 or 2 family dwelling locations. Agricultural zoning or other appropriate garden spaces, community gardens that benefit a large area, but basically limited to 2 for your typical yard, and most would likely only have 1.
My final question. Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. So we're saying the city right now, because I don't think I've ever seen anybody come forward on the beekeeping, so we might be lacking bylaws or some format within the city now.
Correct, and that's why when we looked into it, the bees are generally addressed under the agricultural zoning, which if it's not zoned agricultural, you can't have them because they're simply not mentioned anywhere else in the bylaws.
Thank you, Ethan.
Councillor Rice.
No, I just wanted to, these bees, you're saying it would be very rare for them to sting?
Correct. The hives that we currently have outside of town, we have them in a agricultural yard, and the farmer or the landowner is actually looking for more hives. We'll have a total of 8 on a several acre property, but we have them maybe 250 feet from their house, and 8 hives haven't been any concern to them whatsoever. These are European bees. Alberta has very strict regulations against Africanized bees, which are the more aggressive ones, and those hives are destroyed as soon as any representation of aggression is noticed. Our hives, if we wanted to, we could go up and lift the lid without protective clothing or fear of getting stung. It's when they're agitated and directly threatened that they might produce a threat.
So excuse my ignorance, but why do you want to do this?
It's a great hobby. It's something that I can teach my kids how to do unusual things in the community. We can take them out to where we have the bees right now, but seeing the benefits that it's been to communities across North America already, we would like to bring it into our community and benefit our gardens, our neighbors, and just see the community receive some of the benefits that they have, as well as to ensure a more consistent productivity that comes from the flowering plants in the city as opposed to the seasonal flowering, which happens in more agricultural settings.
Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Gibbon. Well, I've had a few peanut butter and honey sandwiches over the years, and I would encourage you to keep going. Have you talked to anybody from the Beaver Lodge Research Center?
I haven't spoken to anyone from that center. Most of my time and research has been going through other urban policies and procedures of successful programs to see what their responses have been from active urban centers. For instance, there's a course that was put on in Calgary originally, left open for 125 registrants for their urban beekeeping training, and that sold out with enough interest that they started another one, which sold out, and then they did one in Edmonton, and so this year they've got 2 in Calgary, 1 in Edmonton, and 1 in Red Deer, training 125 people at a time to do urban beekeeping, and they're all sold out. You can't get into the course until next year.
Okay. I would I'd like to hear what Beaver Lodge, the bee school out there, the research center, has got to say, and I would like to see what our Parks Department has got to say as well. So, thank you for bringing this concern.
Certainly, thank you.
Councillor McLean, you had something else?
Yes. Just one quick question. I've heard over the years, because everybody knows about Flair around here, and Beaver Lodge, but Flair's the big one. Native bees, they've been kind of going in decline. You said European. So what's the opportunity that if this happens, it'd be native bees, or you said answer that?
The decline in the bees has been from mostly mites that get in, and there's a lot of speculation around what's causing them, but it's hive decline in specific. And so encouraging people to have hives and receive proper training for them within the community is going to bolster that population. Right now, like many things, the education behind people doing things is falling by the wayside because it's more difficult than going to the grocery store and picking up a tub of honey. And so that's part of it for me and my kids, is to teach them how to properly care for a variety of things that we can do to benefit the community.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Okay. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Thanks very much for raising the issue. It sounds like something that'll end up being a referral to committee. Our agendas are set up in such a way that we do those kind of motions sort of towards the end. So you're more than welcome to stay and watch result, or watch, as I said earlier, online. But we'll be certain to, if this council chooses to take up this issue and look into it, then we would make sure we notify you when it's going to show up again.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Jarvis. Okay, so this is the delegation portion of our agenda. We do have this every 2 weeks at every regular city council meeting, and it is for matters that are not a subject of a public hearing. There's a number of people in the audience today, but I imagine that many of them are here for public hearings. I'll do one last call to see if there's anybody here that wanted to speak to the delegation portion of the agenda. You don't have to let us know ahead of time that you're coming, so I just would make note of that for the community and encourage you, if you want to come forward and address council, this opportunity exists every regular city council meeting. So we'll close the delegation portion of the agenda and move on to public hearings. The first we have is item 6.1, the Westgate Area Structure Plan Amendment and correspondent outline and plan amendment. I'd call this public hearing to order and look for an introduction by administration. Mr. Welton.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item relates to text amendments regarding vehicle access to and from 116th Street, and the text amendments would be to the Westgate Area Structure Plan and the Westgate West Outline Plan. The site is located in the northwest corner of the city, between 116th, or located just north of located just west of 116th Street between 101st Avenue and 104th Avenue in the Westgate West area. This is a bit of a detail here. Idea Group, on behalf of the landowners, has submitted applications to amend the Westgate Area Structure Plan and the Westgate West Outline Plan. The proposed amendments to both plans would allow a proposed Canadian Tire store to have a right-in, right-out access onto 116th Street. Currently, both the Area Structure Plan and the Outline Plan specifically prohibit direct access to and from 116th Street. These plans are hierarchical in nature and should be considered in the order presented, and the options are to adopt as amended, or defeat the proposed bylaw and outline plan amendment. Again, the site is located west of 116th Street between 101st Avenue and 104th Avenue in the Westgate West area. The site surrounding the area in all directions is designated for commercial development, and therefore the proposed use is consistent with the Westgate municipal, it's consistent with the municipal development plan. The commercial use is also consistent with the Westgate Area Structure Plan. However, Section 611 of the Westgate ASP does state that access would not be allowed onto 116th Street. The Westgate West outline.
Sorry, Councillor Rice, can you make sure your microphone's on so that people understand? Sure. So if you'd like to ask your question into your microphone, I'd be happy to recognize it.
Okay, I just want, would you repeat that last line? What stated that no access on 116th?
Sorry, the Westgate West Area Structure Plan, Section 6.1.1, basically indicates no access onto 116th Street. Similarly, the Westgate West Outline Plan also identifies this area for commercial and mix of commercial and industrial uses. The commercial area is located adjacent to 100th Avenue and 116th Street, with commercial districts towards the north and west. The proposed Canadian Tire store is consistent with the intended development of the site. However, again, Section 311 of the Westgate West Outline Plan also states no direct access onto 116th Street, like to or from. As a result, at this time, the development permit application for the Canadian Tire store has not been approved. The site and the surrounding area to the north, south, and east is designated CA Arterial Commercial. The proposed commercial development is consistent with the designation, and therefore no amendment to the land use bylaw is necessary. The area to the west is zoned IB Business Industrial in accordance with the Westgate West Outline Plan. The proposed Canadian Tire store includes a retail store, auto service shop, and stock warehouse. Would be approximately 150,000 square feet or 14,000 square meters in area. The site plan is submitted with the development permit application, shows that the proposed store would be located backing onto 101st Avenue to the south, with the front entrance and main parking lot adjacent to 104th Avenue to the north. In addition to the proposed 106th Street access, which is the black area, the site would also have two accesses off 104th Avenue at the north and one access in the southwest corner of the property at the south end, which, although it does provide access for all vehicles onto the site, it does appear to be mostly a vehicle access for the trucks that are going to be stocking the store. The applicant submitted a transportation impact analysis or assessment prepared by Bunton Associates Engineering in support of the amendment applications and subsequent development permit. The TIA is attached in 5 parts. It contains an executive summary, introduction and existing conditions. The TIA was reviewed by Engineering Services. They do not support the right-in, given the fact that the development is proposed to have all directional access on 104th Avenue, just west of 116th Street. Vehicles wanting to get to the site when coming from the north or east will be able to safely access the site via 104th Avenue. Also, as 116th Street is an arterial roadway, additional access onto it will reduce the free flow traffic. When 116th Street becomes a 6-lane configuration, the situation is expected to become worse, as vehicles will have to weave across wider roadways, which in turn will cause additional delays and conflicts. The consultant undertook a weaving analysis in regard to the right out, which is attached as attachment 3. Is not necessarily representative of the conflict concerns engineering has, as this analysis is for highways and not necessarily reflective of urban conditions. The consultant indicates that one weaving conflict could occur every 10 seconds. Engineering services is concerned that this will lead to accidents and overall reduction in level of service for 116th Street, as the distance between the right-in and the 104th Avenue is approximately 60 meters. A vehicle traveling at 60 kilometers an hour would cover this distance in approximately 4 seconds. Engineering service is supportive of the right out as the distance from the access and the downstream access is much greater, and any weaving will occur over this greater area. It also appears from the site layout that the right out will be required for delivery vehicles to be able to exit the site when delivering to the proposed garden center. Advertising of the public hearings have been undertaken as required. We do not receive any comments or concerns. The Westgate West Outline Plan was adopted by council resolution, not by bylaw. Therefore, adoption of the amendment would also be by resolution. Under financial considerations, the developer builder would be responsible for any infrastructure changes to 116th Street, and attachment 4 shows a possible lane configuration. In summary, the proposed amendments to the Westgate Area Structure Plan and Westgate West Outline Plan would facilitate the development of a Canadian Tire store with right-in, right access to 116th Street. Engineering and therefore administration does not support allowing right-in access from 116th Street, but is supportive of the right out onto 116th Street. And the applicants are here to answer any questions. They will be making a presentation shortly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Walton. Any questions for administration at this point? Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I was just wondering, it sort of seems like just by design, this area, that it's almost necessary to have a right in, right out. So my question is, now we don't want to have the weaving for that 62 meters that is going to happen, but it's going to happen anyways with the right out. Am I correct? Like the weaving to get back into Highway 43 vicinity if they want to turn left?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually going to turn this over to the General Manager of Engineering to answer any technical questions.
Ms. Donnelly?
Thank you. I'm here for a reason. Actually, when you look at the layout of the neighborhood, the right in, right out is down further. So the 104th is the all directional. Then there is a right in, right out, and then with the 100th. So if you've got the plan, you can see there was a right in, right out plan. It is at a much better spacing. And the weaving we're concerned about is people, let's say they're coming from, they're going westbound, so they come and they turn at 104th and they go left, and then they got to try and quickly get over as quick as they can across 6 lanes and into the acceleration lane so that they can turn in. Whereas if they went straight across 104th, that would give them better access, or if they continued down to the existing right in, right out that is built already, then that we feel that is going to give them much safer access.
Okay, I do have another question. Christine, now it says it would take about 42 or 4 seconds to get through the 62 meters, and it's about halfway down the property on that right in, right out. My question isn't about that, though. It's about the road structure, the road network leading to that 104th. It appears that it could be a potential bottleneck for people trying to get in or out, whether that's a directional stop sign, a yield sign, a traffic light controlled signal turn, and that's on 104th and just along 104th, and then I guess if you were to go straight up, right up there to the first red arrow. So that area right there. So my concern is Canadian Tire. I know we've all been there, but their parking lot's always jammed. Now I think about Christmas, and I've been talking with our MLA about potentially adding an extra turn lane on Highway 43 so that we don't have that bottleneck that congests that, I guess, the left turn going towards Costco. And I just have fears that this sort of system is going to create that as well and create a traffic backlog all the way up to the lights there. If people are forced to all commute into that one area without the right in, right out. Am I wrong in assuming that there's a chance that we could see probably 20, 30, 40 cars like waiting to get into that turn lane up in that turn in the top left corner there?
Ms. Donnelly?
So I did take a look at that. I did not review the recommendations. I don't think we've finalized how the information is being presented currently with regard to this, but that is a major collector road. The spacing and the distance is adequate, and it is consistent with what we had anticipated when this was created. There might be a need, and there was some discussions in the study about four-way stop or signals. So we might have to be looking at something up at that location once the whole area is perhaps developed, because there are also some larger hotels and things going to the north of here. So, you know, you're right, and we would have to upgrade in that intersection to do that, and we're not concerned about adequately doing those upgrades. This is a major, 104th Ave is a major collector. And it does, remember, it does go down and around and back out onto the highway. And so there's an access further down that way. And as well, there's not currently a right in, right out off of Highway 43, but we have preserved right of way so that we could put in a right off the highway for in the future. So that would give another route in at some point in time.
Just one more question. Just in regards to the turn lane, I can't really tell by the diagram. It looks like a single lane, but is that a single turn lane or is it a double turn lane up in that area?
Do you want to just reference exactly which?
Yeah, just same area. You go up to the top left corner where the red arrow is, and then directly to the right.
Yeah.
Directly to the right, there's that lane there. Now that's just a single lane, right? For turning, or deceleration and turn into here.
It looks like a dedicated left turn lane into the site.
And it would only be like a single turn lane?
That's more than. Okay. Again, I didn't really prepare to answer questions about the internal network for today, but there are some timing and improvements that may have to occur in there, whether it's four-way or signals in the future. But there's adequate capacity, yes.
Okay. I'll let someone else. I got another question.
Sure. There will be another opportunity for questions from administration. You may have some based on the presentations as well of the public or the applicants. But this is just questions of clarification. So, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Christine, just a quick question. I remember last term in council, I believe it was Councillor Wong at the time that made the motion to go forward to make it a 4-lane from a 2-lane. It was passed by council for a 3-year budget, and we've seen what it did. I'm wondering about the congestion on that road. It's really developed and progressed where it is a lot of vehicles. Have you any numbers there? Because I mean, it's really busy now. Do you have any numbers of that? How much it's speed up and how much traffic?
Ms. Donnelly?
Looking at this, that it's not yet where we need to 6-lane it, but it's something we have to keep monitoring, because you're correct, there's a lot of traffic here, and at some point we do need to add lanes and widen this.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Rice.
Christine, you mentioned, if we can get that map back up there, please. You talked about weaving in people turning left. So I assume that's turning left off 104th if they look to be heading west and then they were turning. Surely that would be a double left turn. So you're not doing weaving across 6 lanes of traffic. That's, you could mitigate it by making that a double turning lane, right?
Ms. Donnelly, maybe you just want to highlight the movement that you're concerned about. I'm not understanding the same way Councillor Rice is describing it. So, are you concerned? Was administration's concern the vehicles exiting the site from 104th, turning south, and then looking to turn left on Highway 43? So maybe if you could trace that. Is that the movement that your concern was? Okay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, could you trace that movement so that council can follow along?
Cursor?
Yeah, we certainly can.
So yeah, they'd be going westbound, turning left, and then theoretically you're supposed to go into the first lane and then merge over. So it would be a very rapid move over and to get into this. We do have a number of these in town where there's concerns expressed about traffic trying to get across quite rapidly. And for example, if you think of the one that used to be over by Staples, in the end they had to remove the right in to get rid of that weaving movement. this is a collector. 104th is a collector, so probably not quite the same as Staples, but Staples one that got closed was twice the distance that this is, just to give you perspective.
So I don't see anybody else in the queue for questions for administration. We will have another opportunity for that as well, but I want to make sure that we have lots of time for our delegations or presentations. So I'll open the delegation portion of the public hearing, and I would call for anyone here to speak in support of the application. I believe there may be a team. If you'd like to come forward and introduce yourselves for council and take away your presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Jeff Beaton, and I'm the principal of Idea Group, a consulting firm from Calgary specializing in commercial industrial land development projects, and the applicant for the agenda item you have in front of you. I would like to thank you for providing us the opportunity to be here tonight, and for having this public hearing for this item. I am here tonight with Marianne Berger, a representative of Canadian Tire Real Estate Limited, and Daniel Fung from Bunn & Associates, the author of the TIA, presented in the administrative report. We would like to thank the administration, as it has been a pleasure working with them on this file. The administration report has clearly defined the site location, amendments, site description, and process in front of you. We will not reiterate those points. As you heard from your administration, we agree on all critical and non-critical points except one, the right-in from southbound 116th Street between 104th Avenue and 100th Avenue. We will discuss this point shortly before getting into the discussion of the right-in from southbound 116th Street. We'd like to provide some background on how, as a team, we get to review and choose a site of this for the future needs of Canadian Tire, and in particular this site. As you have received by way of email from Canadian Tire, it has taken Canadian Tire some time and effort to purchase this particular site. A lot of business operations, financial decisions go into the purchasing of a new site. Ourselves and Bunt have worked with Canadian Tire for more than a year, reviewing the site prior to the purchase of this application, to the purchase and this application. The team also reviews other sites, but did not find them suitable for Canadian Tire requirements. The evolution of servicing, land use, access, traffic analysis, and future business operations starts well in advance of the purchase of a property or an application of this nature. As you can imagine, sites within a growing city like yours that also meet the growth needs of a company like Canadian Tire are limited. It becomes very challenging to be able to tick off all the boxes within the countless checklists we undertake for any one particular site. The site was identified as meeting all those criteria, except for what Canadian Tire identifies as a functioning full access. With the addition of the right-in and right-out access onto southbound 116th Street, the site was able to obtain the final check boxes. Bunt thoroughly analyzed this access point, utilizing not only an arterial highway standard approach, but also in an urban context. It is Canadian Tire's directive to both Bunt and ourselves that we review sites that will meet and or exceed the growth and future operational needs of their store. Typically, this review exceeds most municipality requirements. The particular 2.5 acre site needed to not only meet the requirements of Canadian Tire's largest 150,000 square foot prototypical store, but allow for a future 5,100 square foot restaurant pad on the northeast corner of the site at 104th Avenue and 116th Street. This future pad site put additional emphasis on the Canadian Tire requirements to have a functioning full access site. This 10.5 acre site and the largest prototypical store Canadian Tire has shows the level of commitment and confidence Canadian Tire has in your city. This is a substantial investment Canadian Tire is willing to make in your community. If the proposed right-in and right-out on 116th Street is approved, Canadian Tire will be relocating from an existing store on 99th Street that is currently at capacity to the proposed site in front of you today. It should be noted that Canadian Tire is not only committed on this new site, if council agrees to the right-in and right-out onto 116th Street, as proposed, Canadian Tire is committed to the redevelopment of the existing 116th Street, of the existing 160,000 square foot store on a 6.2 acre site on 99th Street. The existing store and site on 99th Street will be repositioned for other retailers and will continue within the Canadian Tire portfolio. Canadian Tire is and will continue to be invested in your city. It should be clearly identified that the right-in and right-out onto southbound 116th Street not being proposed without significant, should be clearly identified the right-in and right-out onto southbound 116th Street is not being proposed without significant infrastructure improvements being completed by Canadian Tire. These improvements include an entire new southbound lane between 104th Avenue and the proposed access, complete with signal light improvements on 116th Street and 104th Avenue. It should also be noted that this southbound section of 116th Street already exists as 3 lanes. We request tonight that council support the requested right-in and right-out access to 116th Street. That second reading be given to bylaw C1186.1, being an amendment to the Westgate Area Structure Plan. That third reading be given to bylaw C11861, being amendment to the Westgate Area Structure Plan. That council adopt by resolution an amendment to the Westgate West Outline Plan by deleting the words in section 3.1.1 and replacing it with the following. The plan area is served by Highway 43 in the south boundary and 116th Street on the east boundary. Highway 43 is currently developed as a 4-lane divided roadway with limited access. 116th Street will be developed in the future to 6 lanes from the current 2-lane paved standard. No direct access of 116th Street and north of 104th Avenue or Highway 43 will be permitted for commercial lots fronting these roads. For a potential large commercial lot directly west of 116th Street and south of 104th Avenue, right-in, right-out access will be permitted to 116th Street and via an east-west minor collector discussed in 3.1.2 below. Following my presentation, Daniel from Brunt has a few technical slides. I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. And discussions that will provide additional clarification of the proposed right-in and weaving movements along 116th Street. He will also close with a short video. I would like to close by requesting that council supports Canadian Tire's request for not only a right-out only on 116th Street, but a right-in as well, that will provide the functional, full access that Canadian Tire requires for all their future business activities on this site. It would be disappointing at this time to start looking for another site that meets the full requirements of Canadian Tire's business needs. I would like to again thank you for your time and would take any questions you may have regarding the application following Daniel's presentation. If I'm not able to answer your questions, Daniel and or Orianne are here also and can help with questions. Daniel?
Thank you, Jeff. Mayor Given, staff, councillor, thanks for your time. Let me dive into a little bit of the technical aspects. Thank you. So I'll start with this proposed access design first. This is also in your administrative report package. Just wanted to start with some more details of what we're planning for. In the existing condition, I hope everybody can see my laser pointer. In the existing condition, there's 3 through lanes southbound on 116th Street. So
Right, Danny, you may be just as well off to use the cursor if that's possible. That maybe.
Are you able to see?
Yeah, we have screens
Perfect.
all in front of us.
Oh,
It's probably
perfect.
a little easier.
So we have 3 through lanes for the existing condition. What Jeff was detailing was we are providing an additional auxiliary lane in this location. So what that does is, for the eastbound movement from 104th, they'll get their own lane, turning right, before merging or weaving into the through southbound lane. For the westbound movements, the two dual left turn lanes coming in, they will be able to either go through unconflicted, or if they wanted to, they can move into the auxiliary lane, decel, and go into the site. Now, what happens is these two movements happen together when they get a green light, and the southbound and the eastbound move together on their green light because they're different phases. So they're sort of segmented. Moving forward, we put this in the report as well, and it's also in the administrative report. To look at it like this, it's a little bit difficult to visualize. So I broke it down into a per minute movement. So what we're seeing, just looking very easily at these crossing movements, we're talking about 1 every 5 vehicles that will get a weave. Right? We've done analyses on these based on the highway capacity manual. We found that the levels of service is either A or B, so that's excellent or good. We would be negligent to tell you that it doesn't slow down some of the movements on the corridor. There's weaving, there might be some slowdowns. But at the same time, this is an urban environment. So this is natural for access to be at urban corridors. I want to point out a couple of things. The first thing is there's a signal up on 104th and 116th Street. So essentially, people will be starting from a red light and then moving forward. So they will be slightly slowed down. There will be an access right out. Again, there's people that's going to be slightly slowed down. Going down further south, 101st Street, there's a lot of eastbound to southbound movement onto Highway 43, and that's natural because people want to get on the highway. People will slow down. At Highway 43 at 116th Street, there's a signal. People will slow down. That's part of a urban corridor. To showcase that we thought through this from both the highway and urban standpoints, we prepared a traffic model, basically just to see how it would look like if we were to run this in real life. And it should work. So it works. So if you're looking at it, we get a lot of volumes going southbound. And we get some left turns now, trying to get in. Now, I want to make a point that we are moving at 8 times natural speed, so it's a little bit faster. But you can see now there's a slowdown. Right? But essentially, they're quite close to moving quite freely. So with that, Mayor Given, staff, councillor, I thank your time. And we would like to open up for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Can I just clarify on that? Was the right in, right out represented on that video?
The model, yes.
Okay.
Can we go back in? Maybe I can just point it out.
Yeah, just clarify. So the access to is.
So this is the
right in,
access.
right
So maybe I'll just, there's dual left turns here from 104th, coming down, turning right, or they would go eastbound, right turn into their own lane, accelerate, get on southbound 116. That's pretty simple.
Sure. Councillor Rice, you had a question?
I just wondered if you could move his video up to, or is that as far as it goes?
That's as far as I could go, but I have distances if you want them.
Councillor Rice, did you have any other questions? You were in the queue before that question.
I was, yes.
Go ahead. Do you have a question?
Okay, did I miss someplace that 104th was going to be signalized?
104th and 116th Street is currently signalized.
It is currently? Okay, all right.
We'll be making modifications to the signalization timing as well as for that the additional green signals moved.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a couple of questions. Did you take an analysis, Daniel, about how much big trucks we have up here compared to other cities in the province? Have you looked into that?
Yes, and thank you, engineering department, for giving guidance to us on that. We had anticipated in the order of 17 or 18% trucks on the corridor, which is quite high in actual terms, but we acknowledge, and we did a site visit actually and looked at the amount of trucks out there, and it was very high. So it is in our model and our analysis.
Okay, and then the other question, we just had a study came by about people being injured, or more than double than other communities in the province, and speeding. Did you see that study? Did you know about that?
I have not seen that study.
Okay.
Councillor Rice?
I love the little map, but I do have another question about it. I love the moving map. So now,
Councillor Rice, do you want to see the presenter's computer?
yeah, please. Yeah, I love this little map. Okay, so if somebody is coming along 104th and they're going to turn left and they want to get across, all the way across, because down at 100th Avenue they're going to turn right onto Highway 43.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't really be weaving, would they? Because if the other people are stopped at the traffic lights, who are they going to weave from?
Yes and no. In the engineering terms, when we do analysis, it is a weave, but in essential terms, in actual terms, there's nothing to weave with. It could be possible because there's nothing in that segment of the road. Yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Clayton.
Wait, my question's for administration.
Thanks, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. In administration's report, it talked about one weaving conflict every 10 seconds. Is that accurate in your estimation? And is as a standard, that doesn't mean much to me. As a standard, is that acceptable or unacceptable?
So it would be acceptable in an urban environment, and yes, the approximation is correct. And going back to Ms. Rice's comment, because we have the different phasings for the signals, sometimes the segment of roadway might be empty. Sometimes there might be vehicles. So that 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds is an approximation.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Did you have any more for your presentation for council? I've only seen 2 members of the team speak, so I just want to make sure that...
I would just like to thank all of you for taking the time, and this is quite a significant investment that we are doing. We do, since becoming a REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust, we do tend to prefer to hang on to existing assets. So we definitely would not be disposing of our existing site, rather redeveloping it and enhancing it. And we just look to, we look forward to just developing and remaining in Grand Prairie and investing in the city. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody else in the queue for questions to the delegation. Thanks for your presentation today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there is an opportunity if there's anybody else that would like to come forward to speak in support or in favor of the application. Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of the application or proposed amendments today? Okay. Is there anybody to speak in opposition to the proposed amendments? Is there anybody here that wanted to speak in opposition to the proposed amendments? If not, then before I close the public hearing, I'll ask one last time if there are any questions for administration. Councillor Clayton, you said that you may have had one.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I wonder if administration could tell me, unless I'm missing something, the map that they've included in the package doesn't show the entire plan. Because when we look at the applicant's map, it shows a lot further roadways. So I'm just looking for some clarification on the 104th Avenue heading west and 120th Street heading north. Like, what's the future look like there? Because your map doesn't really show that. Does it, like 104th Avenue heading west, it doesn't end there, I'm assuming. So where does it go? And it goes up to the Because part of my concern is the traffic flow in that block of land that you don't really show any subdivision in is going to alleviate some of the traffic flow. When you look at the map of the moving traffic that the applicant presents, some of that traffic's alleviated in other directions. So I just sort of curious.
Sonali, I don't know what you're going to reference, but would the aerial photo be helpful to kind of look at the existing road network? Sonali? If we can have administration's computer on the screen.
There we go. 220th. Right.
Sure. So, Ms. Donnelly, do you want to speak to that map?
So this map that you can sort of see up online, it the white shows the currently dedicated road right-of-ways as they exist today, and 104th will be extended out and it will connect into the industrial park to the west, and then there will be another road that kind of comes up and connects to that. And then continues.
120th Street will continue to go north?
Yes.
All the way up?
Yeah, it will go up until it hits this extension of 104th.
But 116th Street, sorry, 118th Street doesn't, it stops there, right? Like
It also will continue up to the north.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councilor Clayton. Any further questions for administration? I just wanted a question of clarification. So the recommendations in our council package, could administration speak to what the recommendations that we have here just says recommend council only allow write-in access. So if council passes the amendments as proposed or in our package, what would we be approving? Mr. Walton.
Mr. Mayor, if you are proposing to approve write-in, write-out, the area structure plan that is attached to your package would be adopted without any change. That is
C1186.
Basically C1186-1, which weirdly enough I don't actually see in the agenda anymore. I have there's an attachment, I think attachment 2, which is a little bit further back. It has sort of the alternative wording, the existing wording and the alternative wording based on write-in, write-out, or write-out only. Actually, if you want to, so the area structure plan wording, as I said, for 1186-4, sorry, 1186-1. That was given first reading. That was written based on write-in, write-out. So if you're proposing write-in, write-out, you can adopt that unaltered. The wording that I have up on screen in red, like this is the wording. The upper red wording is write-in, write-out ASP wording, and then the red at the bottom is write-in, write-out outline plan wording.
So just to clarify, the ASP that received first reading was based on write-in, write-out.
Yes.
So that would just be second and third reading.
Correct.
But if council wanted to approve that write-in, write-out, then there would need to be, for the outline plan, we'd need to be specific about what it is that our intention is, whether it's write-in,
yes.
write-out.
Right. Yeah, and that is the red, the lower red box here. Is the write-in, write-out wording for, this is the write-in, write-out wording for the outline plan.
Okay.
So that's different than the recommendation on the first page of the report. That this is the green is what's on the first page of the report. The red is what you would adopt, and I believe that's what the applicants actually read out at the council.
Sure. Just want to clarify so that we knew the implications of motions that would arise. If there are no further questions for administration or for the presentations from the gallery, then I'll I'll close the public hearing and we move on to business arising. And we look for some motions to deal with this business. Councillor Rice.
I would move. Oh, can you leave the red boxes up, please? I would move.
So just to clarify, we're going to deal first with the area structure plan amendment, which I believe doesn't require any changes to the reading that was given, to the wording that was given first reading.
Okay, so if I just move second reading of the bylaw, that would incorporate the red block, right?
Mr. Alton, I believe that's the case. Is that...
Yes, a motion to give 1186-1 second reading would be the red block wording.
Okay, thank you. So there you go, Councillor Rice. So you don't...
In a technical term, there. Okay, I'm moving second reading of the red block one. C 1186-1.
Thanks very much. So Councillor Rice is making a motion for second reading of the Westgate Area Structure Plan amendment as recognized there in the red block. Okay. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will be voting against this motion. I think that, I appreciate the applicant's study and the information they presented, and I think one of the things that they had mentioned was that, it is to an urban design, and that that having a right-in, right-out, that we could facilitate it just because we're okay with having a little bit of the slower traffic. However, I believe given the nature of 116th, it is a heavy truck. There's a lot of truck traffic. I think many of us are on it on a daily basis, and you see that there's a considerable volume of traffic as well as the type of traffic makes it, I think, contingent upon council to make for the most efficient free flow of vehicles as much as we can, and I believe that having the right in, right out would be a negative impact on that free flow, and I believe that even when we get the new highway bypass in, I think there's still going to be considerable traffic considering the industrial parks on either end there, and we don't want to have. I think it was brought up earlier that our collision rates are extraordinarily high in this city, and I think that council needs to be making decisions that are really looking at road design, and so that we are not forcing vehicles to be in positions where collisions can occur. So with that said, I will be not be supporting this motion.
Thanks, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't be supporting this motion as well. I always wondered when they moved to that area where the Canadian Tire store is now, 60,000 square feet. Boy, I don't know if that's a good location for them. And that was about 15 years ago. It was a concrete plant. Turned out to be a great location for them. And there's, I guess you say 3 accesses, but 2 kind of going into the store, and they're overloaded in the parking lot. I'm more worried about the traffic and how vehicles are flowing and accidents in the community. And I believe where you build that, and hopefully that's the spot, you're going to be totally successful. And you know that as well by your studies. So I'll be not voting for this.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I'm going to speak in support of the motion. I've seen several accounts. You could drive up Stony Plain Road in Edmonton. They have lots of right in, right out into their commercial zones there. The Best Buy I'm thinking of in particular, Bed Bath & Beyond. It's a nice little commercial strip there. Even when you're driving out of town and coming back to Grand Prairie, you hit Spruce Grove and the Save on Foods. They have a right in, right out there. Originally it sort of jutted out, which confused people, so they took that out, but it keeps traffic flowing relatively freely. I don't see any issues with this. The issues that I do have, I guess, if there was an issue, was the weaving out of big trucks that were delivering stuff. But that's the right out, and that's what our administration is moving for. I don't see an issue with the right in, right out. I think it's been well thought out by the applicants. I think our administration has put in hard work, and I appreciate their efforts. But I don't think that this is going to cause any significant injuries due to collision, and it's not going to mess up our road system. And there's lots of ways in and around to get to the Canadian Tire there too. I just think if you add that extra lane as what's being proposed, it's going to create a slow down lane for that right in, right out access, and it makes it fairly simple. So I think I'd be voting in support of this motion.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I also will be speaking in support of this motion. I think that the presenter has negated the comments from administration, although administration has done a lot of work, and I can empathize with their comments in regards to slowing down of the traffic before it gets to Highway 43. I think with the timing of the lights that there's enough space here for the traffic to move successfully, as the traffic from north to south and Highway 16 will traffic will learn the proper flows. Truck traffic is very regular. It's not like trucks all of a sudden just show up on this road. They travel it all the time. They're going to understand the movement of traffic. And I think with the lights and also local traffic will learn new ways of movement. If they're not comfortable with that, they can use the east to west 104th. And I will be supporting this motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. I don't see anybody else in the queue. So if not, then I will call for the vote on Councillor Rice's motion for second reading. Thank you. And that motion does carry. Councillor Rice?
Move third reading of bylaw C 1186-1.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So open for discussion and debate, although we may have just had it, but certainly there is an opportunity on third reading. I don't see anybody ringing in, so we'll move directly to the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And so we need to move on to the Westgate West Outline Plan Amendment. And then this is one where we would need to be specific. If council's intention is to allow that right in, right out, we need to specifically reference that. So I'd maybe recommend if we have somebody make a motion that that they just recognize that intent. Councillor Rice, care to do that?
Red boxes. Okay, so how do you want to amend the area structure plan?
Sure, Councillor Rice. So maybe I think we could probably say amend the outline plan, which is what we're dealing with, to recognize in section 3.11 wording for right in, right out. I think that would probably meet our intent without having to go through and read all.
With all the painful, okay, just what he said.
and
Got it, Terry.
And sorry, so is this, and again, our package isn't 100% clear, so is this a resolution of council, or was it
This is just a resolution, Mr. Mayor.
a single motion? We're not looking for second reading. Just move that outline plan, section 3.11, be amended to recognize wording for right in, right out. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Rice. Open for discussion and debate. Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. I believe that concludes all the business on this public hearing. And we'll move to item 6.2, bylaw C 1260-24, land use bylaw amendment for Cobblestone East, rezoning from RS to RC. I'd call this public hearing to order and look for an introduction from administration.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just going to get my presentation up on the screen here. So we're discussing an amendment to the Cobblestone East Outline Plan as well as a land use bylaw amendment to rezone from small lot residential to low/medium density residential. Here we have the location of the subject properties. So you can see it's on the eastern side of the city, just on the boundary along the county. It's just north of 96th Avenue and just east of 89th Street. The current zoning is small lot residential. It allows for single family homes and a few other minor things, whereas RC, low/medium density residential, will allow for multi-attached dwellings, which is the purpose of this rezoning. It allows for more houses in the area, but the lot size is proportionate within the requirements. So just to give you an idea of the current context, on the eastern side, it's the county. There's a mobile home community. To the north, it's future small lot residential. To the south, it's already currently multi-attached dwellings. And then there's more residential areas and parks in the area. So this use is consistent with the neighboring uses, and it seems appropriate. The area is within the Meadowview Area Structure Plan. Within this structure plan, the area is indicated as
RL, which is the former version of RS, so it's small lot residential. In this case, the outline plan was written before the area structure plan, and the uses were taken from the Cobblestone East outline plan. So it is not prescriptive, it is just a reflection of the outline plan's guidelines. The Cobblestone East outline plan will require an amendment. You can see in the subject site, it's currently zoned as single family, whereas we'll have it transferred to multifamily low density. So here's the highlight of the text changes to the Cobblestone East outline plan. It changes some of the statistics to reflect the changes in density. So you can see that the number of low density multifamily units increases to from 31 to 50. The number of single family dwelling units decreases from 371 to 360. The total anticipated population increases from 1,271 to 1,287. And the student generation increases from 261 to 264. So in summary, the rezoning matches the land use bylaw intentions as well as the Meadowview area structure plan intentions for the area. The rezoning requires amendments to the Cobblestone East outline plan, but it reflects the intent of the plan, and this use is complementary to adjacent land uses. So administration recommends that council adopt by resolution the attached changes to the Cobblestone East outline plan, as well as give second reading to bylaw C-1260-24, as well as third reading to bylaw C-1260-64.
Thanks very much, Mr. Bush. Are there any questions for administration at this time? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a quick question, administration. From changing to low density to multifamily, side yard variances, they change, right? The separations?
Yes, the setbacks changes.
What, do you know that amount?
The specific numbers?
1.2 to...
Sorry, I don't have them memorized, but side yard setback for small lot is 1.2 meters, and for multi-attached dwellings, it is 2.4. 2.4 meters,
so 8 feet. Okay, thank you. I'll ask.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McLean. Any other questions for administration at this time? Okay, then I'll open the public hearing portion of the, I'll open the delegation portion of the public hearing. Look for any presentation or submissions. Is there anyone who would care to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? I don't see anybody coming forward, and so I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in opposition or opposed to this application. Okay, I don't see anybody coming forward. Is there anyone that care to speak to this application? Again, I don't see anybody coming forward, and so before I close the public hearing, I'll give one last opportunity, Council, if you have any questions of administration. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. I think the side yard variance is good. They're not so tight, and if a fire takes the whole thing down with a big wind. What is the actual plan in this area? Is it like two houses together, or what are they trying to put on this lot?
We don't have that information at this stage. This is a rezoning.
Yeah.
That would be during the building permit phase. The applicant is here. I don't know if he would like to speak to that.
Sure, if you'd just like to come forward, introduce yourself, and just speak to what the intentions of the development are.
Good evening, Bob Cooper with Daytona Land, representing Cobblestone Land Corp. Thank you, Mayor and Council. No formal presentation, but I'm just in response to your question. As administration mentioned, it's consistent with some of the land uses from the housing types that are out there at this time. The bigger picture with that was the market reality of bringing on some more affordable housing types, that being the multi-attached townhouses, similar to what you'd see currently on 96th Street, or Avenue, sorry. And so the brick-fronted two-story townhouse that we see out there, that's done very tastefully and meets a certain market need. So that's essentially what the request that our builder came to us with. So.
I just want to finish up. Thank you, Mayor Given. So no garage in the front, parking in the back, kind of thing?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Are there any other questions for the applicant while they're here? I don't see anybody else. Thanks very much, Mr. Cooper, for coming. clear that up for us. So I will close the presentation submission portion of the public hearing, and we'd move on to business arising. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that council adopt by resolution amendments to the Cobblestone East outline plan for the following. And I won't read them, but it's as included in our package.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Discussion, debate on those proposed amendments. Councillor Rice.
I'm urging everyone to vote against this. Here we are, imagine that in winter, with 86 emails a week to all of us suggesting how small lots and multi-lots and everybody in Grand Prairie having a minimum of 1 or 1.5 vehicles and snow removal nightmares. And every time we say parking in the back, guess what? People don't. And we, as I say, 86 phone calls a week to say, yeah, this ain't working. So why we would even consider creating more misery further down the road is beyond me.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Rice. Any further discussion or debate?
Yes, it is.
I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'll call for the vote on the motion to make those amendments as proposed. Motion carries. I believe there was another couple items of business. If we could look for a motion on those items that needed second reading. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I move the second reading be given to bylaw C-1260-24 rezone RS to RC, being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Open for discussion debate. Councillor Rice.
Well, I guess this is just a question. So would it be appropriate down the road when we start to get complaints about snow removal to just pass on the email of those who vote for this?
Certainly, council members can pass on and forward resident concerns to anybody they'd like. I see Councillor Thiessen volunteering. I'm sure he'd be ready with a hug for any of them. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I think a lot of people in this room know how I'm going to vote. I'd like to know, too, down the road, square footage on the lots and stuff of the building and for drainage and stuff, besides just the snow and where to put it and how water's draining on our streets. But I'm with Councillor Rice.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McLean. Any further discussion or debate? I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'll call for the vote on second reading. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that third reading be given to bylaw C-1260-24 rezone RS to RC, being an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on third reading? Seeing nobody ringing in, then I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And that would take us to item 6.3. A further public hearing for bylaw C-1260-26, the land use bylaw amendment from urban reserve to RS and RM. I call this public hearing to order and look to administration for an introduction. Mr. Welton.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an application to amend the land use bylaw to change the zoning of a parcel of land on the east side of the city from urban reserve to RS small lot residential and RM medium density residential. The subject area consists of Lot 2, Block 2, Plan 102-6206, and part of the northwest quarter of Section 18, Township 71, Range 6, west of the 6th Meridian, located in the Riverstone neighborhood, as identified on the map. Bruce Bairstow, on behalf of the applicant, on behalf of the landowner, has submitted an application to rezone the land within this Riverstone neighborhood from urban reserve to RS and RM in accordance with the Riverstone outline plan. When the Riverstone outline plan was adopted in 2006, it identified the future zoning of the area. However, the land was not rezoned at that time. It stayed urban reserve. Therefore, the proposed amendment is to implement the zoning map contained in map 12 of the Riverstone outline plan, allowing subdivision and development. The area is located in the Southeast Area Structure Plan, which is identified on the map on your screens. I have circled in red the area basically that is subject to this proposed amendment. It identifies the area primarily for low-density housing in the northwest corner. There's a node for multifamily development. Therefore, the proposed land use bylaw amendment is consistent with the area structure plan. This map here is from the Riverstone Outline Plan. Again, the area, subject area is circled in red. It identifies the future area, the single attached area as RS, and a multifamily RM site in the northwest corner. Again, consistent with the area structure plan and consistent with the proposed land use bylaw amendment. This map shows the current zoning. Again, circled red identifies the site currently as urban reserve. The area to the north is RS. The area to the west is a combination of manufactured home community and RS. And the area to the east is a combination of RG in Brookfield and Eagle Estates, which is located in the county. The area is currently zoned urban reserve, which is a pre-development district that is intended to preserve future growth areas from premature development. When an area is ready for development, it is expected that the urban reserve zoning would be replaced by the specific zoning districts identified in the city's outline plans, as is the case with this amendment. Council is required to hold a public hearing before adopting the amendment. Advertising and other notification of the public hearing has been undertaken as required, and we did not receive any comments or concerns. The proposed amendment to the land use bylaw would facilitate subdivision and development of the area with low and medium density housing in accordance with the Riverstone Outline Plan, which was previously adopted by Council, and therefore we recommend that Council adopt this land use bylaw amendment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Mr. Walton. So again, an opportunity for any questions for administration at this point before I open the presentation submission portion of the hearing. Any questions for administration? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Dan, just a quick question for you. I wrote it down in my notes here, but so this land was originally zoned in 2006, but it was kept at urban reserve.
The way the process existed, I believe at that time is that the outline plan was adopted back approximately in 2006. And when the outline plan is adopted, amongst other things, it identifies the future zoning for the area. And at that time, it appeared to be the case that the rezoning of the land, because it stayed urban reserve, and even though the outline plan was adopted, and that over time, as the developer was proceeding with each phase, the developer would come back and basically rezone with each phase. With new outline plans that are adopted, it tends to be the case that they also contain the zoning map. Generally, what's been happening with new outline plans is that the applicants are getting the property rezoned at the same time that the outline plan is adopted, which in one hand is a little more efficient because you only do it once. It may not be quite as responsive to market needs, and therefore they often come back and ask for changes here and there. So yeah, in 2006, the area was identified for a combination of RG and RS and RM. At that time, rather than rezoning it all, it's kind of been going along with each individual phase.
Okay. I do have a follow-up question. Thank you, Mayor Bill. So Dan, I just have a question because this was in 2006 and we're currently in 2015. Does the city prescribe to, I guess, rezone or zoning standards? There's a lot of small lot residential in this area, surrounding area. I know the public has come out, like people specifically in Countryside North, said that there's a lot of rental houses in these small lot properties and congestion and parking and stuff like that. So does the city currently prescribe, according to our municipal development plan, to a different type of zoning nowadays than what was relevant back in 2006?
I think, Mr. Mayor, when the municipal development plan was adopted, I believe in 2010, it restricted the amount of RS used in new neighborhoods. So previously, what happened was a outline plan might get adopted and the entire quarter section might be identified as RS. I mean, I live in Pinnacle West, and Pinnacle West is all zoned RS. Some is small lot. There's a lot of larger lots. It was basically something that the developers wanted because it provided them flexibility in meeting market needs. And MDP was adopted, what it said was in new neighborhoods, a maximum of 25% could be RS of single family. And there's a little bit of wording that I'm not 100% sure on, but essentially it was like 25%. At that time, we were not directed to retroactively go back to all of the existing outline plans and remove all of that RS to take them back to 25%. The intention from council, as I understand it, is that council said going forward, all new neighborhoods have to be like we're gonna minimize the use of RS to a maximum of 25% of the single family lots. Again, it was not intended to retroactively go back and change all these plans. This plan was adopted, like eight or 10 years ago. I don't believe it was council's intention to go back and take that away. It was kind of a moving forward thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dan.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Thank you, Dan, for speaking to the outline plan, and maybe there's a loophole there and how things change down the road and they're going from the past. Question I got is Eagle Estates. Is that considered part of the county?
Eagle Estates is in the county, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so another question is, usually when you do a development on a border somewhere, you'll send out a mail door to door. But because of the county, did you send anything out to county residents in Eagle Estates?
We sent letters to the adjacent property owners in Eagle Estates. We also had to send, under the terms of the IDP, we had to send the county notification of the proposed amendments. We did not hear anything from the Eagle Estates people, and the county commented that they had no concerns.
Thanks very much. So I'll open the presentation submission portion of the public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak in support of the application, I'd welcome you to the presenters table. Please introduce yourself, who you represent, and take it away.
Hi, I'm Greg Gramlich. I'm with Bearstone Associates. I'm representing Gateway Land Corp in this project. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow councilors. So I'm just here kind of to answer any questions you may have. I didn't really have a formal presentation ready. I'm here to answer anything that I may be able to help you with.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant's representative, Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Thanks for coming here today. I just have a question, and I could direct this to administration, but I thought, why not talk to the guys that are actually designing the lands? Now, it says here that there's going to be potentially some rear lane access provided for some of the houses. Is that correct, or?
At this point in time, the detailed design isn't completed, so we don't have any, information on that. I do know that the current phase that we're working on does not have any rear lane access.
And that's good to know, because Councillor Rice brought up snow removal earlier, and it got my juices flowing in my brain. Would there be any consideration, perhaps? It says here as per our additional requirements, and it's just a 81.5, and then there's a 1 here. It says the required front yard setback may be reduced to 3.0 meters from the front lot line when a landscape boulevard strip between the curb and the sidewalk is provided. Now, this is in regards to rear lane access. My question to you is the city is looking at different methods of removing snow within the city, especially within newer neighborhoods if we are developing them. I can't speak for the rest of my council mates, but I know that I personally would love to have like that little boulevard strip there, so it has a place for snow removal and storage. In this initial design phase, have you guys thought about incorporating those boulevard strips?
I didn't bring our initial design with us. I apologize for that. I think the way we've proceeded is basically just followed the current city standards. So if I do remember, we do have, there is some separate sidewalk in the development and some monolithic sidewalks. So there may be some strips of the boulevard you're talking about, but unfortunately I don't have that from memory.
That's fair enough. Thank you.
Sorry.
Mayor, again, just a quick question, Craig. When you say small lots in that, is it 25% or more going to be in that area? And when you say small lots, it's 32 feet wide. Am I correct on that?
I think you are correct.
Okay. And when you speak about medium density lots, what size are you speaking to generally average, like 38 feet, 40 feet? Because I'm just putting this all together. All the subdivisions have been happening for years.
Right.
And I'm trying to put that together. So small lots is going to be more than 25% in this area, or under the old one, this area is it maintaining 25%?
I'll actually, in regards to, you're talking about the current development that we're working on, like right now, like the current phase that we're trying to move forward with, I guess in agreement with this land use, I guess, proposal here is that the lots that we have right now, out of about 40% of the lots will, I guess, kind of meet the standard of an RG in addition. So I don't know if that helps kind of get to where you're looking, you know.
And there's the other 60%, but okay.
Yeah, like the RS, out of the RS zoning, I guess what I'm saying, about 40% of the current design that we're working on, 40% of those lots are above, I guess, meet the RG zoning, is what I'm saying. So 60% would be still meeting the RS zoning.
Thank you for answering that.
Excuse me, any other questions for the delegation? I don't see anybody else ringing in, so it looks like you're off the hot seat. Thanks very much for being here to present tonight. So I'll call again if there's anybody else that'd like to speak in favor or in support of the application. Is there anybody else that'd like to come forward and speak in favor or support of the application? I don't see anybody coming forward, so I'll move on to asking if there's anybody who'd like to speak in opposition to the application. Again, I don't see anybody coming forward. Last opportunity, council, for questions for administration before I close the public hearing. Presentation submission, seeing none. Councilor Rice, do you have a question?
So would it be appropriate now or after second reading to challenge council that if they're going to vote in favor of it, they better be prepared to amend the snow removal bylaw to include lane cleaning in future years?
Councilor Rice, that sounds like a referral item to a committee, if you'd like to do that. Or it may even sound a little bit more like debate. Merits of zoning. So we'll move on. Obviously, we're looking to get to business arising. So I'd move to business arising and would look for a motion. Okay. Councilor Tarrant?
I'll move that the amendment to bylaw C 1260 from UR to RS as presented in the report.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on that motion?
Sorry, and the second reading.
Second reading.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
I don't think it's surprising anybody that'd be voting against this. It's been speaking to one thing that council has great control in is development, and we're looking at changing some way development is done in the future. We need to start sending major signals. I hope council defeats this. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I'm just going to echo Councillor McLean's sentiments. I think all you need to do is go around a lot of the small lot residential developments, and you'll see that's where our worst traffic congestion is. That's where our worst ability to snow remove is. I think there's some more thought that needs to be put in this, and we can't live in the past. Like this outline plan was developed in 2006. We're almost 10 years out. I mean, we have the opportunity right now as Urban Reserve to really push the hands of the developers to be a little more creative rather than mashing a bunch of houses together. So I too will not be supporting this.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I just want to respond to a couple of the comments here. I think I'm willing to have the conversation about whether we still allow RS lots and some of the challenges that come along with them. But I think that's a different discussion. Right now in our land use bylaws, we allow them, and the developers can we have clear rules for what applies to them, and so they can use them, right? If we want to take that out, that's our prerogative. But I think that's a different discussion.
Thanks, Councillor Tarrant. I don't see anybody else in the queue. I'll say that I'm going to be voting in favor of the motion. I want to say that I agree. I'd also be interested in having a discussion about the use of small lots in our land use bylaw, and also road standards, which is something else that was referenced in the discussion. Those are different discussions that happen at a different time. I'd be happy to see those come up on a council or committee agenda to discuss the standard road cross section. We've had that discussion last term, but that was prior to the change in our snow removal policy and practice. I think there's probably some merit in reviewing that and seeing if it has, if there's a different way to apply it, particularly with small lots. But I think there's a matter of fairness in saying that you can't change the rules midstream. I think everybody needs to have an opportunity to participate in that discussion, and there's a process that we can follow that way. So I hope that council members, however they vote on this rezoning, if there's an interest in that, we'll consider putting those items on the appropriate standing committee. So I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'll call for the vote on second reading. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Tarrant, I look to you for a motion for third reading.
And I will move that third reading be given to bylaw C 1260-26.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries as well. And that takes us into unfinished business. Item 7.1, amendments to the utility bylaw C 1139. If I can get a motion for second reading. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move the council give second reading to bylaw C-1139M. It is the utility bylaw.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. A motion for second reading. I can relate to council that this has been at the tables of our other shareholder partners, and administration and I had an opportunity to meet with administration from Aquaterra to relate some of the city's priorities around the infrastructure charge, which is one of the items that's included in the changes. There are some follow-up motions I think that we can do if we pass the utility bylaw that will give council an ability to work with Aquaterra to have a look at the infrastructure charge and how its treatment in the bylaw. And it was also identified that the utility bylaw has been in existence for about 30 years. It has been cobbled together over time, and obviously a significant number of changes. And there was agreement that a comprehensive review was needed. Aquaterra sees this, ultimately as their operating instructions, and so that's something that they feel that they would lead, and they're absolutely interested in doing that. So I wanted to let council know that that discussion has happened. I'm comfortable with giving second and third reading to the bylaw as presented here. And I've passed on some motions that were a result of that discussion with Aquaterra to Councillor Radford, and we'll have those follow-up motions with regard to the infrastructure charge and having a bit of a workshop with all of the shareholders on the treatment of that, as well as that discussion about doing a comprehensive review of the utility bylaw. Any discussion or debate on second reading? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Councillor Rice.
Just what is J, Schedule J? That isn't anymore.
Councillor Rice, there was some consideration, and I stand to be corrected by administration, there was some consideration of including a standalone schedule for the infrastructure charge, and that may have been the Schedule J. I see Mr. Roth nodding. After that discussion, we're comfortable with it being included in the other fees and charges schedule, so it didn't need to have its own standalone schedule.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. If I could have a motion for third reading. Councillor Rice.
Okay. I'll move third reading of bylaw C 1139M, and just in speaking to it, I'll just point out that this is not simply a increase. There is some reduction, such as a reduction in the interest rates, deposit interest rates, and that. So there's more amendments included in there. It is primarily rate changes, but there are other changes.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any further discussion or debate on third reading? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. as Mayor Given has just alluded to. I have two follow-up motions. First one being, I would move that Council direct administration to work with Aquaterra to develop an appropriate forum for stakeholders to review the infrastructure charge.
And sorry, Councillor Hepburn, my handwriting, shareholders rather than stakeholders. So there are obviously a significant number of stakeholders in the infrastructure charge.
Shareholders, yes, that was your writing. Thank you.
But the intent is for the shareholders, the municipalities. Obviously, industry will have an interest in that, but at this level, we're just talking about the shareholders. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. Thanks very much. Councillor Hepburn.
For the motion, I would move Council direct admin to work with Aquaterra to initiate a comprehensive review of the utility bylaw.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hepburn. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries as well. I think that handles all of our unfinished business and takes us to item 8.1 under reports. The strategic priorities chart is part of Council's package. This reflects the updates that would cover the January to March 2015 period, Council's advocacy or lobbying priority items, and the work plan that administration's under. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move that City Council that Council approve the strategic priorities chart for the term January to March 2015 as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Any discussion or debate on the strategic priorities chart? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And that would take us to item 8.2, sponsorship requests over $2,000. We have one motion that actually deals with two specific sponsorship requests, one of which we had a presentation on here tonight. Councillor Thiessen.
I was wondering if it would be appropriate to split the motion.
Sure. Yeah. If you'd like to make the motion, Councillor Thiessen, why don't you make whichever half of it you'd like to make, and then we can.
You can do both of them if you like.
Well, why don't we just have a motion on one, since then we'd have a splitting.
All right. All right. So we'll just keep the audience in the crowd for now. So I will just move that council award $5,000 to Agriculture Service Board for 2015.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Any discussion or debate on this motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Okay, and then if we could have a motion on the second portion, Councillor Thiessen, go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Thiessen. You can just make the motion however you like. You don't have to amend it. No.
I will move that council award the full amount as requested of $20,000 sponsorship to the Bear Creek Music Festival for their event in 2016.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. So open for discussion and debate, starting with Councillor Rice.
I'm urging council to vote against this. I think 10,000 was our sponsorship plus 14, so that would be a total of $34,000. And I'm sorry, I find that far in excess of what we've given any other community group or even other festivals or whatever that draw international talent. And I think we have to keep a sense of perspective. And I had concern about 24,000 and would live with it because I felt we needed to encourage this type of festival. But I'm saying, don't get carried away and look at the precedent you'll be setting for other groups.
Thanks, Councillor Rice. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will not be supporting this 20,000 as well, to addition of 14,000 Arts Committee. It was approved in the Arts Committee on an understanding that it would be spent within the year of 2015. The next week it said, well, we'll do it in the year of 2016. Now we'll start charging, and I believe the numbers are really inflated at $500,000 for this event. And it's not a proven event. And provincial funding is, well, that's really up in the air. And I'm very hesitant on the 24 now, and to add another 10. I mean, my goodness, I can see a lot of groups looking at this that have actually run shows and been successful to say, where were you when we first started out? And yes, it's new, but this is really adding for a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. There are a few others in the queue, and I'll just inject myself in the middle, so I'm not doing it as opposed. I would vote in favor of the motion. I believe this is exactly the reason that Council chose to increase the sponsorship budget, is to be able to have a more significant impact on major events, and particularly new ones. The thing that I find most exciting about this is that we have an opportunity to build a new signature event for Grand Prairie, and I think we have to be open to recognizing that different events have different requirements, and I think it was pretty well laid out what the requirements are for the scope of a folk music festival. I also believe that the concept of a folk music festival in particular really aligns with Council's priorities in our strategic plan of focusing on a young community and families. I think that's really in alignment with Council's values and what the City of Grand Prairie is and should be trying to promote. I think this is an appropriate use of our dollars, and especially given the huge community support for the centennial celebrations. I think it showed that Muskosipi Park is ready to handle major events, and the feedback that I had from residents was, why doesn't Grand Prairie have something like this every year? And so I think that the development of the Folk Music Festival will give us an opportunity to meet that demand from residents that was clearly expressed by attendance at the 100th anniversary celebrations and concert in Muskosipi Park. So I'm fully supportive of the recommendation. Councillor Logan?
Thank you. I urge that the motion be approved. I think that you only have really the one chance to launch these sorts of things. A festival that is crippled in some ways by a lack of funding that would make it a success can mean the end of it happening. When I think back to some of the festivals I've attended in their first initial years, they made sure that they did it right from the beginning. It's the only chance they get. So I urge Council to vote for the 20,000 level.
Thanks very much, Councillor Logan. Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you. And just, I guess I probably should have spoke to the motion before I made it, but thank you all who've spoken for it or against it. All your opinions are valued. I made the motion simply because I understand what it takes to run an event like this. The 100th anniversary, we had $250,000 gifted to us to make it a successful event for Grand Prairie. There wasn't one major headliner besides Brad Mates that was there, and he gave us a reduced rate. I think we paid him $5,000. He called up his agent. They would say $60,000 to $100,000 right now for that. So we got the hometown discount. These things are not cheap to run. To take an event like this, which, yes, it looks expensive, it looks outrageous to some of us, but when you run festivals and when you run events, you understand that these costs are there, these costs are real, and I'm willing to take a risk on an event that I think has been properly planned and moving forward with the hope of going big and not going home, and continuing year after year, an event that is going to draw people to our community and pull people together within our community, and I think we can't overlook that aspect. This is a one-time shot, and I think we have the opportunity to give it, regardless of the precedent that we set. So hopefully it's a good one.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Tarrant?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will be voting in favor of the funding. I think that my philosophy is we need to support these festivals when they come. In terms of seed funding, I think it's important to get the money there at the beginning, and for them to be self-sustaining in the future. I think that's a hugely important principle. And so I'm supportive of that. Also, I also want to mention, I did a little bit of research looking at the Edmonton Folk Festival. And back in 1980, when it was started, the City of Edmonton, there was a lot of debate whether they would fund the festival or not. And it was looking like it wasn't going to go forward. And in the end, City Council came through with an equivalent of about $40,000 in today's dollars. And kicking that off, it was hugely successful, and we know today it's not only is it a gem for the City of Edmonton, but it's a huge commercial success, and they're able to, the economic spin-offs of it are tremendous. So I truly believe that this can be premier event for the city. I do believe it is a risk, though. I think that we are taking a bit of a gamble, and but I think that's who we are as a city. We're a city of innovators. We're a city of people that are willing to put things forward and to try new things. And I think that it's a risk I'm ready to take on.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice.
Obviously, it's a city of contradictions. We sat in this very chamber about 4 months ago. Well, we had a request from somebody who hired us to sell tickets through Revolution Place for another festival. We would not even give him back his own money that we sold from the ticket sales until after the event. His money. Those are the ticket sales that were purchased through his hiring of us for his event. And now we're saying, you're going to do it next year. Okay, go ahead. Here's a lot of money. The risk is there. The risk is very real. And I always fancy myself a risk taker. But I'm saying be consistent, be fair, and be equitable to the other people who have worked very hard to put on festivals, are acting like, oh my God, Grande Prairie is finally going to have a festival. That's not accurate. There have been festivals. Be fair, be equitable, and don't be contradictory.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Rice. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I have to say that I agree with Councillor Rice's comments. Although I love the idea of this festival, I think that it's a great opportunity for our community and young families, and I like the idea of children with this $20,000 sponsorship getting to go for free. In the comments that Councillor Rice is talking about in regards to money, that was a 19-year history event that we wouldn't move on, and I think that $24,000, including grant money, is a pretty generous contribution for an event that has no history. Although I think that this event is going to be very successful, and I wish them all the success in the world, I think that what we've already sort of talked about shows the support that we want this event to be successful. I don't think there's enough corporate support there yet for me to go to the level that the motion is on the table, so I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just one more to put in. I want to be successful. Truly do. I want you to come in, but not with a bang, because you might be out with a bang. And I just look at this as it's a big reach. We want to do this, and it'll be successful. And a big selling point was on promoters and getting the money sealed up, because they don't have the corporation as much as they need. And sometimes when you do an event that's going to be a year and a half away, it's quite a long reach to be dealing with promoters. And actually, if you've got a good reach and you're talking about you're with the Edmonton Folks Festival, they get you in contact, and then you wouldn't need the money up front. You need a lot sooner before the event, how a lot of the events are run. Because I talked to a few people that do this, and they find this very outreached for looking for the money for promoters now. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Radwin.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Again, I really, the concept is awesome. It's something the Grande Prairie would certainly benefit from. However, I will not be supporting this motion. I felt comfortable with the support we had given, and I'm cognizant of other requests that we're going to receive during the year. And as I recall, this was a compromise to help us allow some flexibility to support other sponsorships. So for me, it's about budget discipline. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Given. I really do hope that this festival goes off and is a huge success. But we went through budget, and money is pretty tight. We want to spend it in the right ways. There were some excellent comments, both pro and against this, but I will not be supporting the $20,000 ask. When you look at the big picture, the amount that we had originally agreed upon at one point in time was $10,000 plus the arts funding. That's a huge request already, and I think that is fair for the first run. And I would be all in favor of giving you possibly more money next year or the year after this first successful I will not be voting for this the way it is now.
Okay, thanks, Councillor O'Toole. So I think everybody's had an opportunity to speak on the motion. Councillor Thiessen, do you wish to close?
I don't know if I'm going to sway 5 members of my council. Maybe all I got to do is sway one of you. But take it from the guy who used to do this stuff. If I had a $20,000 jackpot like in my hand, there's a potential that the festival once upon a time ago that I ran of mostly local talent within this community for 6 years wouldn't have caved. I would have had that opportunity to take that money and righteously spend it so that it would be continuing on today, and maybe our folk festies over there would be jumping on to help out this festival. Well, I don't hold a grudge for not having it, and I've spoken with lots of promoters within the community, some who are friends with us, some who we don't know, and they are supportive of any extra festival coming in here. And actually, they weren't even upset in the least that we were giving out sponsorship, no matter how big or how small that might be. So I really urge council, if you're not on the fence, that's fine. If you're on one side of the fence that says no, okay, great. But what I'm saying is maybe give a reconsideration. These things don't happen up overnight, and we have an opportunity to really create a legacy here right now in our city and to help people get a leg up into a world where with a year plus, you're going to have extra planning time and they're going to be able to pull in all those extra sponsors. I think it's been said by Councillor Tarrant, we're a town of risk takers and innovators. I like to have hope that music will live on and the arts will carry and blossom through this. I don't think it's a huge amount of money, and I still think we have a good pot to donate, as according to our last presentation. So if you want to change your mind, you're more than welcome to. If not, I won't hold it against you when we go back. So.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. So with that, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry. Looks like, Councillor Thiessen, you didn't sway anybody over. So I would look for any follow-up motions. Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, Mayor Given, I'd like to make motion that we give $10,000 in sponsorship to this request.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on that motion? I don't see anybody in the queue, so I'll call for the vote. Okay, thank you. Okay, and that motion carries unanimously. That would move us on to committee business, and we go to 9.1, the Arts Development Committee from January 21st. Councillor Tarrant, are you going to move that set of minutes for us?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will, sorry, moving along here. What date was it? Yeah, sorry, I'll move the minutes of the Arts Development Committee of January 21st.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Does it look like it accurately reflects what happened at that meeting? I don't see anybody ringing in, so it must. I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Tarrant, anything business that you wanted to highlight in that meeting?
I'll just mention, I mean, council members can see all the various organizations that we were able to provide money to. So there was it was nice for the committee this time around because we had a little bit more flexibility in that council at budget time took out a couple of the Street Performers Festival and the Boys Choir, and we funded them outside of and the Real Shorts funded them outside the festival funding. So there's a little more flexibility, and we actually have maybe one of my fellow members could say how much we have left for the year, but I think it's about 10 or 15,000 that we have next for the next round of funding. So should another festival require some funding and later on in the year, that there is that flexibility given there.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gavin. Just a question to Councillor Tarrant, who is the chair of Arts Committee. It was for the Folks Fest when it was brought up to allocate $14,000 to this group from the Arts Committee that it would be spent this year. I imagine it's going to be brought back up to the Arts Committee because we know now that 14,000 is not going to be spent this year. It's going to be spent in another year. Is that coming forward to the Arts Committee?
Thank you, Councillor McCain. It will be brought up as an information item to the committee. In the criteria for the funding, there is no stipulation that the money must go to the money must be spent this year, but it does not necessarily have to, the event does not have to take place this year. And so that will be communicated to the committee. And I know there has been some committee members that have maybe suggested that's something we want to add to the criteria in the future, is that, you know, that if the money is given that year, that the event has to be that year as well.
Okay, Councillor Rice.
I want to congratulate the committee. I think they did an excellent job considering the diversity. At that one meeting alone, they received applications for funding from the Swan Festival, the Maple Sugar Festival, the All Things Ukrainian Festival, as well as the Scarecrow Festival, and the East Coast Garden Party. And so I really commend them on being able to balance all of the facets of this community.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I am looking forward to the next Arts Committee because wording is everything. And as I've seen over time on the Arts Committee, it was money to be spent in the year that was given. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing how many events were spent the money within the year and we're given it. And maybe there's a loophole now in the wording. I don't know, but look forward to that meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Radley.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Question for Chair Tarrant. There was a reference to admin bringing or providing alternative guidelines for review. Were those specifically, as mentioned in the minutes, relative to first-time festival funding, continuous funding, and application deadline, or were there other components to those alternate guidelines?
Councillor Tarrant.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Given. Yeah, so as you mentioned, there was those few items there, but the main intent was to look at the festival funding and portion it up in a way that you could possibly have two funding streams. One would be for seed money for new festivals, and one would be for existing festivals, and that there would be a differentiation. Possibly the seed money would be a higher amount to help people get going, and then with the expectation that that festivals would become a little bit more financially sustainable, and that there would be you know, a lower amount given at a later date.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I look forward to that discussion. It's happened a few times, but it's good to review it again.
Okay, thanks very much. So we'll move on to the Community Growth Committee from January 27th. Growth would be Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move Council receive the minutes of the Community Growth Committee meeting held on January 27th, 2015.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Doesn't look like that was the meeting that happened. It's described there. It must. So I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole, anything that you'd like to highlight from that set of minutes?
A couple of things that took place there that I'd like to make sure the public make sure they understand what's going on. We had a variance request to the east side yard setback. The building formerly known as Winston's Gym is proposed going to be a microbrewery, the first one in Grand Prairie. We gave them the approval for the development permit. There's still a list of things that they have to go through to make sure that the permit is successful. But we, at this point in time, we gave them the heads up. We also had a report from Municipal Government Board Annexation merit hearing set by our senior planner, and just the process of what's taking place in the near future and to prepare. And also Revolution Place Service Review. We have many different areas of the city have had reviews in the past 4 years that I've been on council, and this is just a service review, and there's going to be some administration's going to look at the report. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. And that would take us to community safety. Councillor McLean. Just want to make sure your microphone's on there.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Council received the minutes of the Community Safety Committee meeting held February 3rd, 2015.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Our last set of minutes for the evening. Does it look like we got it all right in there? I don't see anybody ringing in, so I will call for the vote to adopt that set of minutes. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor McLean, anything you'd like to highlight from that meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yes, just one about the School Resource Officer Program. As the youngest city in Canada, I think it's very important this happens. I do believe Council in the 4-year budget allocated 12 officers, which was pretty good announcement and great for the city, but looking forward to that area being fulfilled sooner than later by Superintendent Ray Noble, and hopefully not needing an extra addition, but to fill the role. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Clayton.
Sorry, thanks, Mayor Given. I wasn't at the meeting, but I'm thinking there's something I just noticed in the minutes. It says the meeting adjourned at 10:47 p.m. I'm assuming that's 10:47 a.m. Unless you guys spent the whole day here and I missed it.
It was pretty long. It's pretty long. I don't think it was that long, but so thanks for that catch. We'll make sure before it gets on to paper.
And I missed it.
We had no items of correspondence. Sorry, that handles all of our committee business. We had no items of correspondence today. And our delegation business, one was addressed with the motion around sponsorship, but the other one wasn't. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'd like to make a referral. I believe it'd go to community safety, but it could be community bylaw community safety on beekeeping and maybe inadequacies or something that could be added, or administration
Maybe just motion to refer the issue of urban beekeeping to the appropriate standing committee.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, sure. And then administration can ensure that it gets to exactly the right one, and that'll give us an opportunity to have a discussion about the issue and what the city of Grand Prairie might need to do to accommodate it if council chose. Okay. Discussion and debate. Councillor Rice.
I think we would be remiss, as about 100 times tonight I've heard how we're such a young city. I think we would be remiss not to congratulate our young member of the audience who has sat here during a very long council meeting and done very well.
Okay, so we do have a motion of referral, so I'll call for the vote on that motion. Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. We had no notices of motion, and that'll take us to council member reports. We had some council members let me know that they had reports, and we'll start with the Art Gallery of Grand Prairie. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just quickly, we had an Art Gallery of Grand Prairie board meeting January 29th. The topics were, we talked about kind of a debrief on our exhibition opening the day before. We talked about year-end budget, year-end and new budget. We approved auditors for 2015. We discussed an acquisitions policy and a general discussion on policy framework and governance. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Radburn. And Councillor Radburn, do you want to continue on with Downtown BRZ?
That'd be great. We had a board meeting Downtown Association on January 28th. We received a Downtown Enhancement Project update from Stuart. Appreciated his attendance. Talked about the council workshop on the 20th, and there will be a session for the Downtown Association members on the morning of the 21st. We approved the Art Roulette Award winner and the Downtowner of the Year Award winner, which will be announced at the AGM coming soon. And we talked about city property snow removal. That is a concern, and something will be coming to a committee on that. Also talked about, City Manager Greg is following up on, there was to be a bench put on the north or east sides of Salvation Army to help with those who were waiting for things at Salvation Army. Yeah, those are the two things that are being referred elsewhere. Thank you, Mayor Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Clayton, you said that you had Sport Council and Nighthawk Recreation or Nighthawk Board. If you would care to do both of those, and then you can continue on to Councilmember Roundtable.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a couple things on the Grand Prairie Sport Council Committee met today, and we're discussing our Sports Excellence event coming up on March 7th. We've had over 40 applicants or proposed people to win awards in different categories, so it's going to be a great event. We're looking for, to sell tickets to that. We're going to celebrate those athletes and those volunteers and coaches and officials that night. So it's looking for the first time event that it's going to be a great event. And then in regards to Nighthawk, things are going great at Nighthawk, busy, lots of snow right now, just need it to warm up just a little bit. But I'm just encouraging anyone to come out to the hill. The next couple of weekends are going to be very busy. The Edge to Edge race is this Family Day weekend. It's on the Sunday only. And there's racers from all around the region that will attend that. And the following weekend, we'll see some ski hill events for the Special Olympics. So I encourage people to get out to Nighthawk for the next few weekends and enjoy some competitive racing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Clayton. And if you want to continue
Sure.
with Councillor Roundtable, and we'll go from you counterclockwise to Councillor O'Toole.
I as the rest of council has attended a lot in the last couple of weeks. Just two that I wanted to. Three I wanted to highlight. I had an opportunity to attend a Winter City Shake-Up conference in Edmonton. There was 52 cities from around the world that were in attendance, and they all were cities that got winter. The basis of the conference was everything winter, from infrastructure to business to fun, and it was a great conference, and I look forward to discussing some of the things that I learned at a further date at a committee level. As well, I had an opportunity to attend the celebration of National Ski Patrol Day this past weekend at Nighthawk Recreation Area, and it was a great opportunity for the ski patrol and to sort of say thanks to people, but as well for people to say thanks to the volunteers that run such a necessary organization. And I really appreciate the work that they do, because, knock on wood, I've never needed them, but many people have, and they're a very strong volunteer organization. As well, I just wanted to highlight one other event. I had an opportunity to read at the during the Literacy Week, as many other councillors did as well, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading to the grade 2s and grade 4s of Swanhaven School. So thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I attended the Centennial Celebration Recognition Luncheon at Bear Creek Golf Club, and that was to recognize all of the people that supported our 100 years of anniversary last year. I attended the celebration of 100 years, or 10 years, sorry, of Parent Link Services, Stepping Stone Daycare. It was quite interesting to listen to some of the stories of the successes that they've had in the last few years. And also the Chamber of Commerce Awards Gala was on February 7th, and it was very well attended, and the awards went to some very deserving people. And other than that, I did spend a little time south of the border where it was warm and no snow. A little bit of sand in the shoes, but other than that, everything was good. Thank you.
We don't feel bad about the sand in your shoes. Councillor Rice.
Okay, I attended the 100th anniversary wrap-up luncheon and appreciation luncheon. The 100th anniversary this Friday will officially wrap up. We did make one exception, and that was we allowed the hockey legends ad to be delayed until this Friday. This will tie in with a fundraiser they're doing, and we figured after 100 years of hockey involvement in this community, we could allow them a couple weeks. So we're very pleased. We've designed the ad cooperation with the Daily Herald Tribune in such a way that it can be transported onto their website, so it will live forever. So 100th anniversary again, I think it was a very enjoyable, as we were able to, everybody shared their favorite memories of the past year. And I also attended the IDP Appeals Workshop, and I know some other people will mention this, but I do want to congratulate those who received the Crime Prevention Awards Thursday evening. So.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I did a bunch of events. Some of them have already been mentioned. All of them are here and already emailed to our legislative services manager, although I did get a respond email saying she wasn't in office right now, so I think I'll forgive her. But I just wanted to touch on a couple events, and it was the events that gave me the most joy over the past 2 weeks, and I really wanted to focus on joy, because even though I know my council mates think that the most enjoyment I have here is giving you all a hard time and sitting around this table every once in a while, throwing out a crazy idea here and there. But I had the opportunity a couple weeks ago. It was Literacy Week, and I was bumping into Bill. I think we bumped into each other at Hillside School. No, because I couldn't see him. He's so short. I was looking up and, jeez. No, but I had the opportunity to go to Hillside Community School and actually read to a group of grade 3 students in my old grade 2 classroom. When I first
perform.
Well, it's sort of both, because I brought my own book that I wrote and illustrated, and I read it to the kids, and they all loved it, and so that was good. I had 5 other engagements as well. I read to all the grade 3 classrooms at St. Gerard School. I read to the grade 3 classroom at Swanhaven, grades 5s and 6s at Avondale, Hillside School. I ran into Bill in my old grade 2 classroom, not there, but in the hallway, and I read to another grade 3 class at Avondale School. The look of joy on kids' faces when people are reading to them, and they actually enjoy reading, not monotonous, I'm getting through the words, when am I going to be done this gig? Because I took from that joy. See the joy in their face, and I received that joy in my own personage as well. So such a great opportunity, and I encourage all parents, all people, any chance you get, read and pretend like you're Rory Tarrant in Les Miserables and act out your heart every time somebody has a quotation mark in front of them, and become those characters, because the kids truly love it, and the joy is reciprocated back to you. The other thing was I was at a Spirit Seekers rehearsal. Now, what you might not know here is that Spirit Seekers is an Aboriginal youth conference and award ceremony for young Aboriginal people making waves in our community. And I have been asked to take part in their revolution of dance. It started out as the evolution of dance, and then became the revolution of dance, because they saw my moves and they were like, whoa, this is crazy, guys. So nothing besides reading to kids and hanging out with you guys gives me more joy than dancing. And today my physiotherapist finally gave me my green card to dance, which meant that I'm okay and I'm healing from past accidents, which is great. So starting tomorrow, I get to go to another rehearsal and I get to actually dance instead of just practice in the corner. So anyways, that's my 2 week.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. It's nice to know that you finally have a green card. Councillor Logan.
Only one item I think I'll mention is the tour that a number of members of council took of the former Young Offender Center, and the very first thing we better do with that is come up with a new name and set of initials. And there's a tremendous facility sitting there vacant and unused that can be used by more than one agency or unit of the city. So that was excellent. The only other thing I get to talk about is that, boy, I did a lot of shoveling for a guy that was in a condo.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll just speak to 3. One was we had our meeting on our city manager, Greg. It's not over. Performance review. We have it every year. It's part of our duty. He's our only employee, and I believe Bill's still working on it, and council is, but I'm very proud. I know different areas I've gone since second term working with Greg, and the respect he has throughout other cities within the city of administration and doing it. So keep up the good work, Greg, and look forward to finishing that. The other one was Councillor Logan was speaking of the tour of the young offenders. I'll use one word, P, potential. And it needs to be done hopefully before the next term, and it's utilized that building. So thank you, Councillor Logan. And the other one is the Crime Prevention Awards, which I was very proud to once again be there with Karen. There was quite other councillors were there, Councillor Radburn, Councillor O'Toole, Mayor Bill Given. Some of us brought some little kids that were maybe higher than 2 feet or barely or just below 2 feet, whichever you want to see. A couple of them I want to speak to. I mean, there's a few of them. Was Doug McMahon, peace officer at the city, 27 years. I mean, Gord. I'm thinking of Doug Eady. Gord. And ever since I first came on council, I met Gord, and been very good to deal with. And he's a very, very solid worker for the city, and takes a lot of pride in his job. Another one as well is Doug Eady. Who doesn't know Doug Eady? I moved to the city in 90 or 91. He was the first one I ran into way before I became in politics. lifetime volunteer, one of the biggest ones in our city. Let's be honest. Anywhere you go, if you don't see Doug wanting to give you a hug and smiling, there's a lot of love there. And he's truly one of the face of our city. So I want to thank for all the winners at this event. And it's truly, it connects our city. It's proven facts, crime prevention. If it doesn't happen, if we can find out where graffiti is, if we can take care of it and do other things in our community, we can make our community stronger and work together. And this is what it's all about. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor Radford.
Thank you, McGovern. Just quickly, 2 or 3 things. I did read at Avondale, a kindergarten class, which was a humbling experience for me again. It was good to do. And I really want to thank Chris and Mayor Given and everybody in the community who participated in Literacy Week in the various schools. It's very important to the schools, to the children, to the students, but also it builds community. So kudos to all those who took part. I want to mention the Crime Prevention Awards as well, because as Karen shared with us, we had more, just like with other awards, we had, I was thinking the Sport Council Awards, we had more applications and of higher quality than we've had. And so they were truly outstanding, the recipients, and the contributions they made. And yeah, tour of the Young Offender Center had been there for a number of years since I retired, but there are definitely partnerships and uses to be explored. For sure, we have an asset, and I'm sure we'll make the best use of it. Thank you, Mayor Given.
Thanks, Councillor Radford. Councillor Tarrant.
Mayor Given, just a few things to note. On the 31st, attended the Home Builders Awards. It's great to see a number of local home builders in the city and in the region being recognized for the great work they did, and the mayor was able to give the Innovation Award, which the City of Grand Prairie sponsors. So it was great to see that the innovation in that industry honored. I too was at the tour of the Young Offender Center. I think Councillor McLean hit it on the head. I think there's a huge potential there. It was really great to see all the different rooms and the different. You can really get the creative juices flowing, seeing what could become of it. And I look forward to seeing what the community proposes that we come up with for that facility. Just one final thing. I missed it in the community reports, but the Special Olympics are coming up very fast in 2 weeks on the 21st and 22nd. So we'll have 750 athletes and coaches descending on our community, and every hotel is going to be crammed full, and it's going to be a very, very busy city, lots of things happening. And, hats off to the organizing committee, who has just done a fantastic job at coordinating this, and it's, I think, going to be a huge victory for the city when it's all said and done.
Thanks, Councillor Tarrant. I think we started with Councillor Clayton, so I'm just going to highlight one item. All the rest, of course, will be included in the minutes. Council started a new process where we submit written list of the events that we've attended. So I'm just going to choose to highlight one that hasn't been mentioned. I was able to go to a regular meeting of the Grand Prairie Construction Association and make a presentation about Council's priorities and our vision for what's coming in the community. Council will be happy to know that Bob McNeil from our purchasing department is a regular attendee at the Construction Association meetings. So I certainly appreciated knowing that. Walked into the room and saw him there, and he said, "Oh, I'm always here, I always come," which is great to know that our city staff are out there to ensure that they're hearing directly from industry. So I appreciated that. The other thing that was of interest for council was that there was a presentation from the Provincial Construction Association. And one of the items that they highlighted was a provincial not-for-profit organization that's been started up by industry, including architects and builders and others, and engineering firms, to aid in disaster management or disaster infrastructure replacement. It came from the learnings of the floods in southern Alberta, where there was a need to replace significant infrastructure in a very short period of time. And so industries come together to create a new umbrella organization that will aid the provincial government or municipal governments in ensuring that we can meet all of our tendering and bid requirements, but do it in a more expedient way when it's required. And so it was the first that I'd heard of that, and the industry is looking to get that worded that out. I've passed that on to GPREP here locally. I made that connection, and hopefully that'll be useful. So I found that to be a really useful meeting, not just for the opportunity to go and talk and share a little bit about where the city's going, but also to learn from industry. And so that was the only item that I wanted to highlight. And with that, we'll call our council meeting adjourned. Thank you.